All right, let me turn off this slapping music. Okay, good morning, everybody. Or I guess, oh no, it's my afternoon. Rameez, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good
Oh, thank
afternoon.
goodness. That's always nice. And I can hear you. Is my sound okay?
Perfect.
Okay, good. Let's see, I'm a bit. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Morbid Symptoms, Notes from the Interregnum. I'm very happy today to be joined by um, Rameez Rahman. Am I saying that correctly?
More or less, Rahman.
How would you say it, Rameez?
Rameez Rahman.
Oh, Rameez Rahman. Okay,
Yeah,
that sounds better.
yeah.
To help me do a cross-examination of the tabloid-left show trial that's been going on in full force. I mean, practically, feasting on the 97-year-old Chomsky's reputation, and having, and with very little pushback, because of course people are afraid of that Epstein taint. So it's a wonderful silencer. But anyway, let me check my light here. Is that? I guess it's all right. I don't know. My little bargain basement ring light. Anyway, people aren't here to gaze upon my aging beauty. Anyway, Rameez, we met. I came across you because you posted a video
Yes.
taking some of Chomsky's I don't know, firing squad. I don't even know what to call them, to task, and that's how I came to be aware of you. And so I sent you a DM on X, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to join me next week to go over this?" Because very few people seem willing to, especially, unfortunately, people with large platforms are just on the prosecution. On the
Right.
prosecution side, and no one is very few people are attempting to be like, okay, let's calm down here. What really is is there guilt here? And could people be using it to grind axes for sensationalism, to for ulterior motives, and just because it's it's a salacious story. We love when people fall off their pedestals and
Right.
whatnot. And I think
Right.
also part of it is that of course, we've been in a populist phase for a long time, and of course this really goes into feeding populist passions. Yet another elite who
Right.
behind the scenes, they're all one big club, all these types of things. But anyway, if you could just introduce yourself a bit, say what you'd like to say, just to give people who are watching a bit of understanding on who Rameez Rahman is, and
Sure.
why he feels compelled to be willing to catch the arrows of pedo defender and Epstein class ball handler, whatever it is,
Right. Right.
to just say just to stand up and be like, okay, this seems crazy.
Yeah. So just a brief intro. My name, yeah, as you rightly said, is Rameez Rahman. I'm originally from Pakistan, currently living in the Netherlands. So basically, both my parents were, my father passed away in 2020. Both my parents were leftist journalists and part of the left movement in Pakistan. And I grew up in China because my father was one of the leaders against the dictatorship, against General Ziaul Haq. So after the movement ended, he was blacklisted, and then he went once again to China. He had been to China as a young unmarried man in the 60s during the Cultural Revolution. So yeah, I grew up in China, and then later on when I came back, then around in my teens, and then I think I discovered, coming to the topic, I discovered Professor Chomsky at the age of 18, 19. This was the early days of the internet for me, at least. 98 it was. And we used to have this modem-based slow internet. And it's a full circle moment, because I discovered Chomsky exactly where he finds himself now. So the first web page that loaded chuck, 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 chuck very gradually on that modem speed was Chomsky, the biggest self-hating Jew in the world. And then another web page which said America hater, and then another web page, and it was all just.
But now it's for, like, it was just an act that he was a self-hating Jew. Actually, he's been
Right.
a Mossad
Right.
agent from the beginning,
Yes.
and it's all just coming out now.
Yes, he's a lifelong intelligence asset, of course, as we know, and as everybody knows.
Who isn't?
Who
Are
isn't? Right.
you?
Right. Might be because, yeah. So yeah, as I said, it's a full circle moment. And then basically my first intro to him, like how I got into touch with him was through Znet. So those who don't know, those of your listeners who don't know, at that time, Znet or Znet used to be the largest left platform, online platform in the world, I think. And Chomsky had a sustainers program there to support Znet. People would subscribe to Znet, and then they could get to ask Chomsky questions on Chomsky Chat, I think the forum was called, and Howard Zinn questions. I don't remember what was Howard Zinn's message board called, but it also had a very appealing name. Anyway, so I asked Chomsky something later on. I think for the first time I managed to ask Chomsky a question was after 9/11 had happened in 2001. And he preemptively saved me from the new atheists that were just about to develop, because I remember I was only like, yeah, at that time when I asked the question, I was 21. And I said, Professor Chomsky, all the trouble in the world is because of religion or some stupid thing like that. And then he said, oh, really? And then he explained to me, why it wasn't religion, it was the secular, blah, blah, blah. And then, so he saved me from that. But then the biggest surprise of my young life, just a few days later, in my email box, in my inbox, I receive a mail from whom but Professor Chomsky. And that was, in those days, his email was not publicly available. Chomsky at MIT.edu was not publicly available on the MIT website, as far as I remember. So it was like, oh, I've got it's some treasure that I had got in my hands. But what was even more scary, what was scarier was that he was asking for my help. He was like, oh, I'm actually about to visit Pakistan in 2 months or something, and then I would really like to know, about the political situation of Pakistan. And as I mentioned in my video, I realized I was out of my depth. So I asked my father to write a mail to him, which he did in Urdu, and then I sent to Professor Chomsky. And since then, we were on and off. I was in touch with Professor Chomsky, and as I said, in 2022 there was a big brouhaha on Pakistani Twitter and Pakistani mainstream media and social media when I wrote this blog post saying that Professor Chomsky says there's no meaningful evidence of coup against Imran Khan, even though the coup might have happened. And then, of course, I had just written it purely to quell the conspiracy theories. I had I wasn't supporting any party. But then, of course, he faced this barrage of hate mail and so on and so forth, which I mentioned. So that's my history with Professor Chomsky.
Yeah, and with me, it's like I too received an email from him, which is kind of funny.
Oh, wow.
I was surprised. That's a longer story. Or no, I mean, we'll get to that. But yeah, I never, I came across him probably, I can't remember now. Maybe it was after 9/11 or maybe it was before. But when I was in university, and I think I was aware of him. Sure. And I probably had a couple of friends at university that had a Chomsky poster, and there was the manufacturing of consent. And, his thing about if you want to fight terrorism to the United States, you should stop perpetuating it. And
right.
This stuff. So I knew of him. And I've read a couple of his books, but, I just always thought of him as like, he's just, felt compelled to critique U.S. foreign policy publicly and seemed to say yes to as many speeches and interviews as possible.
Right.
And he was this. I just thought him as this older, because as soon as I came aware of him, he was already probably 70, and so he would just come on and just have a sweater, and he'd just be very calm, and he would just say what he had to say, and that was it. And so I was surprised. I guess I shouldn't be, but when all this hate came out after the Epstein revelations, I was like, Jesus, so many people have an axe to grind with him. And the first thing I thought, oh my God, if he was like getting massages with Dershowitz at Mar-a-Lago from like 17 and 18-year-olds, then this is going to, then that would be a scandal.
Right.
And I can understand why people see this person with Epstein, especially now that Epstein is like this epic, cosmic villain. I could see why that would be disconcerting. You're like, what's going on? But then, if you think, okay, if you have the time and interest, you kind of step back and be like, okay, well, let's see what the interaction was. Okay, well, yeah, the optics are bad, but what crime is there? You know, and I can see if people want to say, you know, we're humans, we like to moralize, and especially since Epstein has such this connotation now, this immediate connotation. I could see with a judgment and whatnot, but it's like, you know, just not, you know, not that, you know, to go a bit religious, you know, judge not lest you be judged. It's like, okay, maybe there are people who do background checks on anybody before they dare share any space with them. And if somebody had a prostitution charge that they had pled guilty to and done some time for, maybe there are people who would be like, no, I'm not having anything to do with them. Or people who think that class politics or politics is about shunning anybody who is in the enemy camp, opposition, whatever, because of the, you know, this kind of to keep it pure as possible. Now, okay, fine. But in terms of if you apply if you pick any kind of objective moral philosophy and apply it to that, you're like, well, what's the harm here? You know, at that time. But anyway, what we're going to do, so I looked into it a bit, and then it didn't take me too long to be like, okay, well, so the JFK people are mad at him, the 9/11 people are mad at him, the Campists are mad at him, the people who are like, there's the US and the rest. So if you're against US foreign policy, you can't say anything negative ever about anybody else, any regime. So if he says something critical about the Iranian regime, those people have an axe to grind. About the Venezuelan, you know, about the limits of populism and anti-imperialist rhetoric, they have an axe to grind. If you hate that he said that you should vote, that he's going to vote for Biden because Trump is worse, they have an axe to grind. The people about COVID vaccines, they have an axe to grind. I mean, all this stuff that really has nothing to do with him interacting with Epstein, or the ultimate sin nowadays that people have a certain idea they want to fit Epstein into, that those pictures of him humanize Epstein.
Right. You forgot
I think so. Anyway, so I quickly was like, Jesus, you know, knives out, axes to grind, logical fallacies left and right, you know, spin.
I just wanted to say
trials. It was crazy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say you forgot the most pathetic group of them all, those who were against his linguistic theories.
Oh God.
That's the most
It's proof that gender whatever is wrong.
Exactly. That's just so pathetic. I mean, that is, but the thing is, if you really look back at all the attacks that have been launched against Professor Chomsky over the years, this is nothing new. So I've been seeing these kinds of attacks even in the past. Something would happen and all these philosophers and linguists who didn't agree with him, they would be like, you know, saying, yeah, we were always saying, you know, his theories are wrong.
Warn you.
Yeah,
and like you've said, I was said that it's like, on all variety of things, there are different sides.
Sure.
Argue whatever, but this idea that it's just so obvious that it's just like what I'm calling. I'm gonna write. I hope to finish writing this up. What I'm calling the Epstein quilting point, or the Epstein hermeneutic. Yeah.
Right.
So you just put Epstein in there and then say, now you have to go back and revisit everything this person has ever said and ever done, keeping within mind that he was part of this, you know, satanic elite espionage pedo cult or something.
Right.
I'm like, well, that's convenient. And then they sell it like it's journalism or analysis or legitimate political critique.
Indeed. Yeah. And
I'm like, well,
yeah.
Is it though? And then I had some people like a couple like, well, I don't understand. Like, I never heard you say anything about Chomsky before. Like, why do you care? I'm like, because it's disgusting.
Right.
And it's a morbid. I call my show Morbid Symptoms. It's a morbid symptom.
Indeed, it is.
I don't have to be in love with the man or think that everything he said was the truth with the capital T.
Correct.
You know, Jesus, I'm an accidental Zizekian. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. But obviously, those two are, you know, he didn't have anything nice to say about anything about, you know, French theory, postmodernism, all that stuff. But it doesn't mean I'm going to be like, see, look, he's wrong about all that.
Right, exactly. But that's exactly what's happening.
Because I'm not a dipshit with an axe to grind. Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, that's true. And I think
somebody turned up.
I was in email correspondence with some people, and they said that it's, yeah, to put it another way, it's a fathers and sons moment, right? Everything is, yeah, you can just, everything is bad and nothing is sacred. So yeah,
And I wonder what the younger people think, because I'm 50 now, so I can say things like the youngins. But it just seems to me, especially with the Campists and the communists and the Marxist Leninist revivalists and these types of things, that's like you're fighting battles from like 40, 50 years ago, really?
Right.
It's like, what's the deal here? If you just cancel him hard enough, what, Stalin will rise again? All the statues of Lenin that are in disrepair and whatnot are just going to erect themselves, and you're just going to go back and like that Bugs Bunny thing. I don't know if you're familiar with the terminology, the thing about I took the wrong turn in Albuquerque and everything went wrong. You can just go back. And if everybody would just fall in line and follow the party line, and the Soviet Union was the vanguard, then we'd be living in a socialist paradise right now. They're out of their mind. It's like it's like mental.
There's a lot of
to me.
There's a lot of rewriting of history going on, because what people don't realize, and especially as you mentioned, these people who are trying to revive this, is I feel, from what I know of history, and also from a personal point of view, because remember, Norman Finkelstein said that in the 70s, he basically broke down for weeks after, he became disillusioned with Maoism. But what I can tell you from personal experience, from my, like the circles that I grew up in, this was common. So people who had been either pro-Russia, pro-China, it used to be called, these camps in Pakistan, they were all disillusioned. The global left, whatever it was in the late 80s and most of 90s, was totally disillusioned. And basically because, all their ideals were, like, the Soviet Union is breaking up, China is going another route, and so on and so forth. And at that time, Professor Chomsky appeared as this voice, and this lone voice, who was, in a way, the reason that people were so attracted to him was because he kept saying, listen, socialism was good, and we must strive for socialism. And in fact, the end of USSR is actually, in his words, a victory for socialism, and things like that. And that was the reason that people were, I think, one of the reasons that people were attracted to him. So as you said, these are old battles which have been lost, which can't be won. And now somehow, because it seems that the only reason that the Soviet Union got broken up or whatever was because Professor Chomsky willed it to be.
Yeah, I mean, and also the literacy, because people are like, I saw one thing like, oh, he called him a right deviationist. It's like, do these revivalists not know their own history?
Right.
We go back even before Lenin was alive. I think there was this talk in socialist camp, the umbrella of socialism, and then Bolshevik, all this stuff, very, very fractious. So left deviationists, right deviationists. There was all kinds of things. That's the lingo. And if you look at especially under Stalin's leadership, I mean, there was like 40, there was more words for, enemy or betrayer or whatever than the Eskimos have for snow. I mean, it was just like, this is a discourse that they used.
Right.
So it's like, no, if you take socialism to mean, and you can have different, I mean, I think part of the problem is what this brings up again, is that there's still this hegemonic battle for what socialism actually, what it means and what forms, so what form that actually takes and how to get from where you are to that point. Within anarchism, within socialism, within Marxism, within all that, within communism, even also, all that stuff. But this idea that but for him, that somehow him saying, well, if you take socialism to mean worker control of production, then it was anti-socialist. There are people who were like, no, we're not into the replacing the aristocracy with the party elite. We're not, and you can justify, and of course, all the developmental modernization, industrialization, all this stuff that was the Soviet Union managed. But they never want to look at the cost to the peasantry, to the workers. It's like, so it's like, some people were like, no, we have issues with that. And he wasn't the first one.
No, he
wasn't the only one in his generation. So it's just crazy. To me, it's just, if they focus on him or any other opportunist or oppositionist or wrecker or splitter or Trotskyist or all that stuff, then they don't have to look at the contradictions of the movement that they're trying to revive and look at the historical record as a totality, good, bad, evil, indifferent, all of it, to learn from it and move on. It's much easier to do this purge. They love the purge and the denunciations. And to me, I'm writing this article, and I hope to finish it today or tomorrow, that it's just this huge castration complex, you know? And it's just bizarre. Anyway, I feel better, Rameez.
I'll just make one quick point about.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. You were saying.
No, I was just gonna say I'm done with my cathartic.
Right. I just
we're gonna get into the cross-examination of the members of the troop here very shortly.
Just one last point. So, not knowing the history. So basically, what I was very interested to learn that Maxim Gorky, who was like the leading writer of the socialist movement and of Russia of that time, and his novel Mother basically inspired a whole generation of socialists and people, and very beautiful. But if you read what he was saying in the late 1919, 1921, he was basically like attacking both Lenin and Trotsky like anything. He was saying they are betraying everything that democracy fought for. These are his exact words. And they consider they are the Robespierres of this Russian Revolution, and they are drunk on power and dogma. On power and dogma. And this is Maxim Gorky. So this is not some anarchist or not some like Trotskyite or whatever.
And on that point, because I'm looking into this now, because I was, I've been meaning to look into the political history of this, because I came to Marxism. I'm gonna out myself through university. So I guess I'm mainly through a big someone I've used a lot in my research is David Harvey. So that's the kind of my entry point, and so I was aware there was a lot of like the political stuff that I was ignorant of, like I knew about, so just kind of a surface thing. So I've been looking into that, and I would just encourage people, do not take the revivalists at face value. Okay, these Marxist-Leninist revivalist sects, and Stalin did nothing wrong, and Lenin's is the most base goat of all time. Cool. That's fine, but my current stance is that's a recycled party line, taken at face value, kind of low-level red stuff. So they take it at face value. What you can do is what I've learned, and I'm still looking at this now, reading through it slowly, is that after the Soviet Union fell, a lot of archives became available.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of our, I think from 1992 to probably about 2010, then I think Putin started to close that down a bit, because they're like, okay, we don't want to, anyway. However, so before then, a lot of the stuff about the discussions about the critique of the Soviet Union and other things were based on people who had escaped or who emigrated or exiled, defected. And so that was limited. Yeah. So you could also say like, well, these people also can have axes to grind or who knows what. But there's people who have, since the early 1990s, historians have been going into the archives, and there's a lot of books now coming out that have revisited, revised, updated, and also kind of negated some of the consensus opinion, whether on the left or the right or in the middle, about that period of history. So, for example, I have no affiliation with Cambridge University Press, but Cambridge University Press released a 3-volume history of communism, I think in 2017. So it's like 2,100 pages from a variety of different, quote unquote experts that go through that, making heavy use of the archives. So party and state archives, and also, all kinds of archives. And also they have a 2-volume history of socialism that came out, I think, maybe in 2019. And so just to kind of get the lay of the land, of course, these are academic presses. So I'm not saying that experts have the truth with a capital T, but I'm saying is that if you want to get an idea of this history, I can recommend those 2 volumes. I have them and I just have flipped through them a bit, but they seem like they'd be a good base of information that isn't one side saying, Stalin did nothing wrong, Lenin's the goat. Anybody that had any left person that had any critique of communism or actually existing socialism is the devil or an asset or whatever. And then the other side, who the black book of social or of whatever that, those kind of whatever the black book was, there's these kind of demonizations of it. You don't get any of that. I can recommend those things for people who want to get a better feel for where this animosity comes from. And you can trace it back to 1840 sometimes.
Interesting.
Oh, so much. Anyway, I see Shane laughing. Let's bring Shane. I'm going to bring you up for just a second. Is that okay? Okay. Hi, Shane.
Hi, Shane.
How are you?
Well, I'm Shane, and I'm an Irish guy living in Barcelona, Spain. And who I am is just a concerned human of the world. And I've been a fan of Noam Chomsky. Not a fan. No, yeah, I guess I have been a fan of Noam Chomsky for a long time. I've read a lot of his books, listened to a lot of his talks. Like yourselves, I discovered him around 18 or 19. I'd like to credit the person who told me to read about him. One day I was working as a student. I was working my part-time job, and my friend was talking, and he mentioned Palestine, and I asked, "What is the Palestine?" Right, so I had no idea, and he was so kind at that moment. He explained it in a way that didn't make me feel ashamed, and then he said, "I think you should go to a bookshop and pick up any book by Noam Chomsky." So he was very, very kind the way he introduced me to, or opened my mind. And then since then, I've just been on a journey of learning. And well, look, the reason I'm here is because I was extremely inspired by Rameez and his video. And I'm in agreement with what you folks have said. I agree that, there's nothing to suggest any criminal act by Noam Chomsky in these files. You have to balance, okay, right, you can't. So my background is legal.
Oh, good.
You can't disprove an unfalsifiable claim. So, you'll hear things like, well, just because there are no photos of him in X, Y, or Z, it doesn't mean he wasn't there. So, okay, we can go down this route. So what you have to do is you have to balance the evidence that we have. And we have a lifetime of incredible work by Noam against a small bit of correspondence and a couple of photographs. Now, if people want to insist that there was complicity by Noam, at some moment you just have to, well, of course you must allow people to believe what they want to believe, but ultimately you would hope that reason, rationale, logic, and using your brain.
Well, and on that, Shane, I don't mind the average person who's not involved in this much, but when people who should know better, people who call their podcasts bad faith, I used to think ironically, but they're really not always, people who want to say they're journalists or investigative journalists or all this stuff, it just becomes it's just so tabloid, and that's the thing. It's so I'm glad that you have a legal background, because I was trying to think of how to structure this. I'm like, oh, we're going to do a cross-examination of the show trial, because so far it's just been prosecution. Yeah. So, and I don't know if you're in trial law or whatnot, but the idea is that everybody, I'm sure, has watched. I mean, in the West, procedural shows and legal dramas have been, around forever. But the trial starts, and both sides give their opening statement. So you have the facts, and you have the law, and then you have the story that you need to make out of it. And of course, the prosecution wants to convince the jury or the judge that the person's guilty beyond reasonable doubt, and the other side is trying to show that no, the state hasn't proven the case that the person is guilty beyond reasonable doubt or could be exonerated. And what you have here is people seem to be going on. They have the emails or whatnot, and then they frame them in the most salacious, self-serving way possible, or grandstanding way possible. And then whoever the host is just like, yeah, so it's just like, so that was my idea, is that, okay, the idea that if you were to push back on some of this, what would you say? Like about the fallacies, about the spinning, about the, maybe the ulterior motives, all this stuff. And I totally agree with you. And thank you for bringing that up. At the bottom line, he's committed no illegal acts. And, it's like, if you want to say that he should have known all this stuff back in 2018 or whenever, I think their relationship started in 2015, 2019. I think a lot of people are mind reading time travelers. That's one thing, including Cliff Hedges. They can travel back in time and read people's mind, read Noam Chomsky's mind throughout that whole period. Then with the confirmation bias, or the bias of how the signifier, the symbol Epstein, the connotations and the taint that has. But no, just convicted. That's why I think it's the show trial. It's like it's not is he guilty or not? It's like, okay, yeah, we know he's guilty, but how guilty is he? And how many of these charges are we going to lob against him? And it's not all because we have an issue with him or because we're trying to, get likes or feed the populist passions or anything like that. No, it's all legitimate. It's totally legitimate. Anyway, I'm going to pop you back down, Shane. Shane, if when we get back to it, he's going to come back on maybe when we get into the gray zone, guys, because I think that Matt Kennard, how do you say his name? Matt Kennard?
Yeah, Matt Kennard.
Matt Kennard, thank you. He's also been getting his swipes in, and yes. Shane's going to come up at that point, if not before, and let us know what he, cross-examine the case that Matt has brought against Professor Chomsky. I'm going to drop you back down. If I say you can use the private chat, so if there's something you really want to weigh in on, let me know, or you can kind of go like this, and I'll bring you back up. Thank you for joining.
No, a pleasure, really.
Talk to you soon. All right, so let's get this cross-examination on the road, shall we?
Yes,
let me
please.
bring up my thing here. Okay, so the show trial by social media. You
made this?
I just went online and put like conspiracy thinking or conspiracy theory, and I do have a video of Noam Chomsky talking about conspiracy theories in the left.
Right.
And it's about 9 minutes, but he's a kind of a slow talker. So if I speed it up, I could probably get it like in 6 minutes. Mm-hmm. Yes, let's see. You wanted to start with, though, I believe, what's his name? Alan MacLeod?
Yeah, MacLeod, or I wouldn't know the correct pronunciation.
Okay, let's put out. So the defense calls Alan MacLeod to the stand. Let me find him.
Yes.
Yes. So where are you, Alan? Sorry. You can go ahead and start if you'd like.
Sure. So my main point was, there's several things that he uses salacious language. He uses innuendo a lot. But the main point that there are many, but one or two main points that I wanted to bring in. One is related to Venezuela. So basically,
let me just stop you for 1 second in case people don't know. I thought I had his big picture here. Okay, but if you go up here, he is here with Brianna on Bad Faith. This is Alan MacLeod, and he wrote some heavy hitting investigative journalism. He apparently looked into all the Epstein files, the Epstein X Files, that Chomsky is the Chomsky emails, and he went on Bad Faith to talk about how Chomsky fantasized about Epstein Island.
Right.
So this is who Rameez is going to cross-examine in absentia, like they did to Noam.
Right. So basically, he is, of course, the words that he's been using, the salacious words, the innuendo, and basically the clever use of verbs, which we will get to. It is a hit piece, and it is yellow journalism, I must say. But what he couldn't find, and what he was, I'm sure, dying to find, is trying to show that what Professor Chomsky used to state publicly, he was the opposite of that privately to Epstein. So let's say publicly he was a big supporter of Palestine, but privately he would say, yeah, fuck Palestine or whatever. I don't care about Palestine and whatever, right? So he couldn't find any of that. All he could find were two things: some remarks related to women, which we can discuss, but the other was related to Venezuela. So I don't know if you could bring that screenshot up, the Venezuela screenshot that I sent you, is basically, so this is, this is what, but if you put up the screenshot where he mentions that Professor Epstein in private, though, yes, this one, exactly. So he says, he also bitterly attacked Venezuela under socialist presidents Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro. Chomsky had met Chavez in Venezuela and publicly praised him, stating, "I can see how a better world is being created and can speak to the person who has inspired it." True. But then he says, with Epstein, though, Chomsky described Venezuela as a major disaster brought about by corruption and incompetence. And then he says he characterized the country as a completely top-down bureaucracy and not even remotely like socialism. So there are two problems with this. It's actually, I would say it's either malpractice or basically it's a mistake, which I don't think it is. Alan MacLeod, or whatever, how it's pronounced, Mr. MacLeod knows that, because Mr. MacLeod has a book on Venezuela. He knows for a fact, I should think, or if he doesn't, then that's journalistic malpractice, that Chomsky had spoken out against Chavez much before. So the screenshot that you showed, in 2011, there's a Common Dreams article, and also that was published in The Guardian, I believe, where he's criticizing Hugo Chavez. And then this is in 2019. But as I said, there's one in 2000, all the way back in 2011, where it was titled as, Chavez's old friend Noam Chomsky is criticizing him, or something like that. So Mr. Alan MacLeod knows that it's not though through Epstein privately he's bad-mouthing Venezuela or anything like that. As early as 2011, Chomsky had already criticized Hugo Chavez. So this, as I said, either this is just malpractice, and at the very least, Mr. Alan MacLeod should issue either a correction and he should apologize. But of course, we know he won't. But this is the most clear-cut case of a mistake. I don't think it's a mistake, but of course, I'm not in his head like they're all in Professor Chomsky's head. Maybe it was a mistake, but then at least they should issue a correction that it's not privately, even though he's saying bad things about Chavez or whatever it might be, but rather the case that Chomsky had long been public about it.
Oops.
The second thing that I want to bring up, if you show the screenshot again, yes, this one. Then he say this one, exactly. Characterize the country as a completely top-down bureaucracy and not even remotely like socialism. So he has linked to the mail. Thank you, Mr. Alan MacLeod. But the fact is, if you read that mail, Chomsky is actually defending socialism, because Epstein is in a very snarky way making fun of socialism. He's saying, so that's what real socialism looks like, huh? Because Chomsky's saying there's corruption in Venezuela and so on. And Epstein goes, so this is what real socialism looks like. I don't know if you have that mail or not. And then Chomsky replies to that, it was not even remotely like socialism. So basically, Chomsky was defending.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll find it.
Sure. So basically, but the way this has been put is as if Chomsky is now somehow, out of the blue criticizing the lack of socialism in Venezuela, whereas it was actually a defense of socialism.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, this one. So if you read the underlined in red, Epstein says, is it socialism at its finest? The snarky, typical, what people like to diss socialism, obviously. And then Chomsky replies very characteristically. He says it wasn't remotely like socialism, and it was completely directed from the top, and so on and so forth. So this bit of context is not has not been made clear. But as I said, the first part is more damning, and I do think if they had any shame, which I doubt they have, they should at least issue a correction saying we implied that Professor Chomsky had, with the though in private to Epstein is bad-mouthing Venezuela, whereas we should have known that Professor Chomsky had already back in 2011 criticized Chavez, and he had done so on many occasions later as well.
And I would add, this is again the Campist thing. So the U.S. or the West, whatever, the U.S.-led West has been terrible to Venezuela. Sure.
Sure,
Sanctions, yeah. Doesn't like Chavez, yeah. Fine. But the idea then it goes that you can't say anything wrong or critical about Chavismo, or later Maduro, which is also Chavismo, and you can't say anything negative about it. You just have to suck it up. And I don't know but I don't know what to tell these people. There's a lot of research. Yeah, a lot of people have researched Venezuela from before to after. There's a large body of research, and there's people who actually try to do it objectively and be like, look, yes, there were sanctions, yes, there was meddling, yes, there was all this, obviously. And when Chavismo won the election, you still that was a party. So when a socialist party wins an election, that doesn't mean that your political economy automatically becomes socialist.
Right.
So you still have what I'll just use the classic terms. You still have the bourgeoisie, the petite bourgeoisie. You have the professional managerial class. You have all these divisions. Yeah, and it's also true that they relied on the rise in oil prices to be able to fund all these programs and these parallel institutions. And when the oil price went down and when sanctions went down, their economy is very weak because it's so oil centric.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a limit to populist, anti-imperialist politics. Yeah. Materialism is a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So and then you do have, and it's not like socialist parties once they get in power, or communist parties when they get in power, they don't do political crimes. They don't go after their political enemies.
Right.
So they don't have all this stuff. And so some people have criticism of that. Some people think you got to be ruthless. You got to break some eggs to make the omelet. And if you don't, then they're just going to, undermine and ruin your revolution before it starts. Okay, fine. But there are other people who have another point of view, and it's a consistent one, and it's a rational one. Doesn't mean it's the only one.
Right. What I would say is this. We could even grant, just for the sake of argument, I'm saying that everything that you said is wrong, and everything that Professor Chomsky said is wrong, as vis-a-vis criticism of Chavez and Venezuela. It's all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Mr. Alan MacLeod still? The question remains: why is Mr. Alan MacLeod implying that Chomsky in private was bad mouthing Venezuela, as if it's some sort of a a hypocrisy on his part? Because that's the heading of that section, by the way. Publicly left-leaning guy, privately very conservative. And actually, I don't remember the heading. Yeah, exactly. Whereas, so this is journalistic malpractice, basically. And
if we're doing if we were actually at trial, then they have an expression that if somebody lies about one thing, you can assume they've lied about everything. And so already, we would be able to look to the jury and be like, is this guy a trustworthy witness?
Right. Right.
Or should you keep in mind that if he was sloppy or lied or misrepresented this, then is it likely that he also did that in the other pieces? And I don't know if you want to talk about this. He made hay out of the island.
Right. Yeah, we can. Right. If you have that screenshot, maybe.
I do. Let me see. Oh, hello. Oh, sorry.
Yes. So here also again, so I don't understand the minds of these people. What is it that there was this person who for decades was almost all alone talking about imperialism, about Palestine? He was one of a handful who has been, why are you so set on burying him and killing him just because of what is this X that you have to grind? In Mr. Alan MacLeod's case, it seems to be Venezuela, which again, maybe Professor Chomsky was all wrong on Venezuela, but that still doesn't grant you the right to be quote unquote an asshole and to be, for journalistic malpractice. So here again, if you see, right, look at the salacious language. He says, Chomsky, however, had his eyes set on an entirely different property of Epstein's. The one on the and then so and And he's very clever. So in the third paragraph, if you read the third paragraph, he says, in February 2016, he offered to send the Lolita Express to Boston to pick up the Chomskys and take them to Little St. James Island. Can't tell you how tempting the invitation is. Have to somehow work out the schedule. Noam replied. So here he uses the verb replied, which means that Chomsky was replying to an invitation from Epstein, which is true. But then he goes on to say in the last paragraph, he says, a few months later, Noam was still dreaming of visiting. Valeria's always been keen on New York. I'm really fantasizing about the Caribbean island. He told Epstein in July 2016. So from replied, it has become told, because we have to, the reader has to know that Noam is now dreaming about this. So he's telling Epstein. Whereas if you click this email, you would find out that yet again, it was a reply to an invitation, because Epstein was again inviting him to the Caribbean island, to which he again said this.
Well, and also it's like, who here hasn't, I probably have dreamt about going to a Caribbean vacation, a Caribbean island. And if I was in my 90s and dealing with a huge fight, with a serious financial strain with my adult children, I might think, oh my God, that sounds great, just to go and relax, have a Caribbean getaway. And it only becomes sinister because of the connotation of the name Epstein.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And also it's just really had his eyes on an entirely different property. I mean, it's just so tabloid. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the History Channel. I don't know if the History Channel actually used to do history, but you know, when they had like the alien stuff now, and so they go to all these ancient ruins and they say, is it possible that this was an alien hand? Is it possible that this was built on alien technology? They just kind of, you know, yeah, you can make this story. Again, this is like this is all prosecution. So they're taking like these email exchanges exist, and he's putting it in the most salacious narrative, meaning possible. And on that, I want to share the screen, because Michael Tracy, who's been one of the few people who's willing to stand up and say, I think that maybe this stuff's getting out of hand, and to actually go and look at what the official records are, not lawyer PR statements, and not just tip lines to the FBI and this type of stuff, but like actually what the credible or corroborated information evidence is, based on hearsay, allegations, all this other stuff that has yet to be verified or rendered credible in any kind of process. That either from anyway. So let me bring Michael Tracy, because he responded to Alan MacLeod's article. A lot of it hangs on, that he wasn't a cheerleader. He wasn't unquestioning Chavez booster, so that's his crime. And also he was thinking that it'd be great to go on a Caribbean vacation. That bastard. Let's see. And I think also people assume with Epstein that all he did 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, his whole life was predate on young women. And when I say young women, I'm using what that used to mean from like 15 to 25. Not that I'm saying that, that hanging out with the women below 18 is great, or even older guys, being surrounded with 18 and 19-year-olds is great. But people have this idea that's the only thing this person ever did. Even when he was at his mom's house, he was predating.
Or if Professor Chomsky was meeting him, then he too must have been doing the same thing.
Yeah. It's like, okay. Let me see, which of course goes into, because again, what's doing the thing that's doing all the heavy lifting, like 98% of the heavy lifting and all this stuff, is the connotation to Epstein. What that name means now. or what that name brings to mind now in most people's minds. Let me share the screen. Oh no, I don't want to copy. So let's see, share screen. Noam Chomsky, is it X? Yeah. Oh no, I don't want to share our private conversation. I need to go to bookmarks now. Let's see. Okay, so I'll do this one first. So Chris Wright has also taken the time to try to respond to some of this craziness. Let me zoom this out so people can see it. How does that look? That looks pretty good. Okay. I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm just going to read a bit of his response to Alan MacLeod's. So we're bringing Chris Wright on the stand via tweet to challenge Alan MacLeod's testimony, keeping with the analogy of the trial here. Let's see. The prosecution is rested. Now the defense, we're trying to do what we can, but we're on a budget. Let's see. So Chris Wright says, obviously, I have too much time on my hands lately. I'm getting sick of writing about the Chomsky issue, but having just read this article by Alan MacLeod, I want to make a few points. First, it's one of the sleaziest, most repulsive pieces of journalism I've read in my life.
I agree.
MacLeod evidently doesn't have a shred of personal decency. He's devoted many hours to exposing a family's dirty laundry in public. It was shameful and shocking enough for the Justice Department to release deeply personal emails between Chomsky and his children. But it's at least equally despicable for MacLeod to advertise them and summarize them. This repugnant creature deserves to be excluded from all decent society for the rest of his life. Okay, it's like, live by the purge, die by the purge, babe. Okay, where does it end? So that's fun. Well, now I'm enjoying this a lot, reading it out loud. I'm going to read another paragraph here. Moreover, the snide insinuations and accusations of which the article is full could only be conceived by a depraved mind. A mind that is surely not ignorant of Chomsky's lifelong work on behalf of oppressed people everywhere and its fanatical opposition to the policies of the ruling elites, but rather doesn't care about any of that and instead is obsessed with promoting the most salacious, absurd rumors about a truly exemplary human being. He quotes, the subheading, "Trusting Epstein over his own children," says one of the subheadings, may be written by an editor. Thinking of a leftist writing that kind of thing about MLK, for example, to whom Chomsky in many ways comparable, except that this, he's going on now. But anyway, okay, so that's that. But I want to get to where are my bookmarks? What's happening? Is this a bookmark? No, sorry. Why is it looking weird to me now? Sorry. If you want to say anything, go ahead and say something. I'm going to find Michael Tracy's response.
Yeah, sure. So basically, about the, as you said, about the fantasizing as well, and I mentioned in my video as well, given the lifetime of work Professor Chomsky had done and the commitments that he mentions, the endless commitments, basically, he was always available to the public, to ordinary people. And it's a shame that there was another screenshot that I sent you, I think Miss Brianna Joy Gray, she says, that's another thing common between Chomsky and Epstein, that they were very quick in replying to emails. And that's such a shameful line. And that Miss Gray doesn't, it's quite clear she has never read a book by Chomsky. She doesn't know the seminal role that he's played in the left.
Or she's just mad because he didn't agree with her on the not voting for Biden.
Sure, that's another point which we'll come to.
But I forgot to mention that how I have an email somewhere from Chomsky. I'm sure I saved it. Oh God, when was it? 2000? It was during COVID. I can't remember. Anyway, and I wanted to write about the manufacturing of consent, but focusing on higher ed, because not to get into too much detail about myself, but I did my my master's and PhD and postdoc in geography, and everything. And everything, there's the UN Sustainable Development Goals was everywhere. I mean, it was just everywhere. Like that was how you think about development. That's how you think about international cooperation. Are these sustainable development goals that, you know, and you can achieve them without looking at class or anything else. And so I was thinking about, so I wanted to apply manufacturing consent to the funding of higher ed and how that works. So using him and Herman's model, retooling it and applying it to what I had seen and been witness to in my time in academia. And I wasn't I didn't know this about him, that they tried to answer all the emails. And I thought, well, if you don't ask, then it's for sure a no. So I attached the draft of the paper and just said, you know, hi, Professor Chomsky, blah, 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 blah. And said, you know, I'm sure you're really busy, but if you have any time, I'd love to get your take on, you know, on this paper, because I'm applying your and Herman's model to higher ed. And like a week goes by and I get a response from him. Right. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like, you know, he just said, like, you know, I'm glad you're using it. I hope to get to it, but he didn't make any promises, but he was like, I'll hope. And I was just, you know, I mean, I really wasn't expecting him to go over it.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah. So how bad could he be? So this is Michael Tracy. Let me go back to this. So here's Michael Tracy. In just the first few paragraphs of your bullshit February 7th article, Alan MacLeod, see screenshot below, there are so many preposterous canards, one after the next. It's almost incredible. I guess that's why it had to be published in the quote-unquote MintPress news. Although it's true that most of the mainstream press isn't much better, but it should really say something that the alternative media would sink to such revolting depths to defame Chomsky. And then he goes on, I'm not going to read all of this, but people can look at it. He goes on to say that Jeffrey Epstein was never charged, convicted, or ever even credibly accused of anything to do with pedophilia, which is so Epstein's plane was never named the Lolita Express, for Christ's sake. According to all available evidence that's ever been produced, Epstein never called his plane the Lolita Express, and his friends and associates, Chomsky included, never called it the Lolita Express. This is just a recurring nonsensical myth that won't die. The salacious and cheeky nickname was invented by a British tabloid newspaper in 2015. Epstein's Island was not the location, the quote-unquote location of many of Epstein's worst sex crimes. In fact, there's never been any credible evidence that any sex crimes ever took place on the island at all. And there's definitely never been any credible evidence that any children were ever sexually, quote-unquote, trafficked or R-worded on that island. Isn't this supposed to be a giant pedophilia scandal? Aren't Epstein's worst sex crimes supposed to involve children? Chomsky's relationship with his 3 adult children was not damaged because of his relationship with Epstein. It was damaged after adult children started to restrict Chomsky's access to his own financial resources, which were held in a trust that one of the adult children controlled. What damaged the relationship was the adult children's suspicion of Chomsky's second wife and the influence they suspected she had over him. Epstein was only brought in after the fact to help resolve the issue, the financial issue. And he goes on and on to talk about that. Okay, one last thing.
You should be ashamed.
The fact that you're still repeating this bogus, quote unquote, belong to intelligence quote, a central tenet of the online Epstein folklore circa 2019 onward, just shows how little legitimate research you're prepared to do before rattling off a slew of disgraceful defamations. The quote is a nonsense quadruple hearsay concoction of Vicky Ward, a former British tabloid trash journalist who repackaged some gossip she heard from Steve Bannon, himself, it turns out, a close friend of Epstein. Ward never meaningfully followed up on the supposed bombshell revelation, which was conspicuously buried in her original 2019 Daily Beast article, and she's never corrected the record in the many years since, even after Acosta has repeatedly denied ever saying this, including under oath to the DOJ in 2020, and as recently, and so it goes on and on. You should be ashamed of yourself, Alan MacLeod, for so flippantly defaming Noam Chomsky, a 97-year-old man debilitated by a stroke, based on such catastrophically poor journalism and research, which proves nothing except your own laughably impoverished knowledge of this issue. But of course, that didn't stop you from spewing the defamatory garbage. If you had any shame, you'd take down this repulsive article, but no one should hold their breaths for that, because freely spewing fact-devoid idiocies is par for the course of this topic and richly rewarded by the hysterical slop algorithm. Right. Anyone who wants reality-based information can start here. And he recently, Compact recently released an article, I think it's not paywalled, when he talks about Noam Chomsky was right about Epstein. I would encourage everyone to read that before it becomes
paywalled. So what I would say is, when I read Mr. Ellen MacLeod's article, or MacLeod, then I have the same. So I entirely agree with the last paragraph of what Michael Tracey has written, that he really should be ashamed for this yellow piece of journalism. And I said, there's, okay, salaciousness, not salaciousness, he can hide, but there is a clear, as I said, with the Venezuela-based thing, they should at least, MintPress, or at least Mr. Ellen MacLeod, should issue a correction and should apologize.
Yeah, but he's getting lots of time on it. He's been back on. I think he's been back on Bad Faith. Or he did a follow-up. He's getting attention for it. You know what's also ironic? Sorry, I'm messing with my light here because I don't know why. I think it might be just be my eyes. But what's odd about him is that I first noticed him because he would often take clips of like New York Times articles or Wall Street Journal articles or Washington Post articles having to do with the Gaza, and use a red pen or a red marker and cross out the kind of flim flam language. Right. You might say how they're manufacturing consent with their language choice, and write down what more clearly a more honest headline. And so it's odd. It's ironic that when it comes to that he's guilty of what he's accused all the mainstream press for doing all this time from even before, of course, October 7th.
Yes. No, I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, we can say all the bad things about mainstream media, but independent media has not covered itself in glory. With these,
No. Lots of axes to grind. And on that, what I would like to do is I would like to show, if you think, I would like to show some people upset at, axe grinders. And then if it's okay with you, I'd like to show, it's probably 7 minutes of Noam Chomsky talking about conspiracy theories.
Sure.
Okay. And then I'll bring Shane on and he can talk about Matt Kennard, because it seems like one of the things that maybe I didn't know about this, that maybe part of the beef that and I have no idea what's going on in their mind. Unlike Chris Hedges, I'm not a time-traveling mind reader, but it just seems that the gray zone, because of course part of this is if most of your journalism is looking at the CIA and Mossad and the security state and foreign wars and whatnot, then of course it makes sense that that's the frame that you're going to bring to most things. But they seem quite convinced about the Epstein being this kind of, being a linchpin for a blackmail operation. And that's one of the reasons, to keep the U.S. in line and not get any crazy ideas about not supporting Israel wholeheartedly.
So the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah. So let's see. And so maybe that's why they're, and well, anyway, let me try to go, remove. This is the thing. Where are you, conspiracy theories? And of course, I'm not saying that a conspiracy theory can't be true. And a good conspiracy theory is going to have some facts in there, right? So it's not that it's fact-free. It's the story that develops, and the kind of interest and the passion, the curiosities that get developed out of how those facts are put together.
In fact, while you're finding it, so as I mentioned, so when Gabriel Rockhill, for example, when he says that, Chomsky was just entirely dismissive of conspiracy theories, whereas Michael Parenti had a book on the JFK assassination and he goes in depth, what Gabriel Rockhill will come to that, I guess, but what he doesn't know, or he doesn't conveniently mention, is that Chomsky had an entire book on the JFK conspiracy theory called Rethinking Camelot. And then Bob Buzenko, who's the protege of Chomsky's, he had a book called Masters of War, also debunking the JFK conspiracy theories and showing how the JFK administration was actually very pro-war and very hawkish.
You know, I'll save this for later, but when it comes to Gabriel Rockhill, I don't know if you're familiar with this phrase, but he's such a pick-me. He's a total pick-me.
No,
like,
I
pick
don't.
me,
No.
pick me.
Right.
And I have some tea. I have some secondhand hearsay tea that I will spill only because it's relevant. Okay. And again, hearsay. So, you know, I don't know. But it rings true. So anyway, to have an axe to grind, for people not familiar with this idiom, it means that someone is advocating for a particular point of view, not out of pure concern for the issue, but because it serves their own interest. So it's to have a personal stake or possible ulterior motive in a situation or an argument. So Max Lumenthal, Chomsky was mid-gesture maxing. Max, you're too old for that term. But I use weird terms too because I've got kids. So I know what gooning is and maxing and oh my god, the things I know that I wish I didn't. Ehud Barak, does it make sense for a left critic of power to line with an Israeli genocide gooner and get mogged by Davos moids, escorted by teen foids on Epstein Island? He should be embarrassed.
Yeah, I don't understand half of what that means.
Yeah, I don't know. He's just basically trying to get with the kids. Yeah,
okay.
He's trying. Maybe he's trying to woo that Groyper audience. Cynthia McKinney. Chomsky can never have been a hero to me because he went along with the 9/11 narrative of lies. As a result of all the hand-wringing that you see about his close relationship with Epstein, sorry, you won't see it from me. Because she knew. And then Brianna Joy Gray, remember when you all got mad at me for disagreeing with Chomsky over vote blue no matter who?
And this is important because she's responding to a comment that says, no offense at all, the propaganda apparatus is very strong, but clearly Chomsky has been an intel asset for a very long time. Clearly. So, I mean, it's just so shameful. And Ms. Gray has been grinding her ex for almost 5 years now. And the fact is, she should have been happy. She was a young woman and she challenged Professor Chomsky. And yes, it seems she felt that she couldn't win that argument. That's fine. But she was young and she challenged him and it was fine. And she should have taken it in the right spirit. But she got so angry and petty about it that it's now been 5 years that she has just been constantly grinding her ex. It's just shameful.
Well, I mean, it's good for clicks too. And so I put a prompt into one of those AI image generators. So it's like, show us on the doll where Chomsky hurt you. Jesus. It's like, it's all his fault.
It is all his fault.
All his fault.
In fact, the reason the global left is in such a bad shape is all because of Chomsky.
Yeah, and I wanted to look at this, and I didn't have time, and I didn't have time to think about how I would actually do it. I wanted to look at when his peak of cultural influence was, and my guess would be right around probably the late 90s, early noughts. You know,
I would say, early noughts. I would say,
and it's just so crazy. Like, but for Chomsky's comments, what?
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, to me, it just shows the impotence and the kind of late stage, morbid symptoms of the left. That this is the only vitality they can muster, is this kind of cannibalism and this kind of tabloid show trials. Because I guess, and though also, to be fair, I was thinking of this and I felt guilty about the other day that me getting focused in on this issue. It actually was nice not to think about, and again, this is terrible, not to think about what's going on in Gaza.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And not to think about all the other things that are going on, you know? And so I'm sure that's also for the people on the other side of this, you know, like we don't have to deal with like how we've been watching like a live stream genocide the last few years, and how now you have the Trump Board of Peace, and how it seems like they're just going to get away with it. Like maybe history will judge them. And instead of dealing with that fact,
yes,
we're totally enmeshed in this Epstein drama.
The Iran attack on Iran, the impending attack on Iran.
And I also thought about that. I was also like, oh my God, it has been actually as turned up as this show trial stuff makes me. I'd rather be thinking about this than thinking about what's going on in Gaza and how there's nothing I can do. There's nothing that seems that any regular person or even the majority of the planet, the vast majority of the planet, can do about it.
Yeah, just so you know, like the Pakistani government is also fully on board with the Trump plan, which is a shame, of course.
Oh, before I do that though, Chomsky and me, if this was an actual trial, I would call Bev Stohl as a character witness. So she was. I think it's probably secretary is an anachronistic term now, but she ran his MIT office for 25 years.
Yes.
And how bad could a guy be if his office manager writes a memoir about him?
Yes,
called Chomsky and Me. And I wrote this a while back. I wrote that I wonder if the show trial left cannibals will compel her to denounce him, recant prior positive statements, and pull this book from this memoir from the market.
Yeah. Here I must say something about Bev Stohl. So
she saw her?
But she saw my video and she reached out to me on the comment section, and she was very happy, and she said, I can finally, relax a bit because I was just going out of my mind because all these attacks upon attacks. And this, I know the man for she worked with him for over 20 years, I guess, and
25 years.
Yeah, 25 years. And she was so hurt and of course, like me as well, and angry. But she was very happy with the video, and she was kind enough to let me know.
Well, as a deep state asset would, Rameez.
Yes. Yes,
and this is the great thing about these kinds of hysterias, is that even evidence that detracts it becomes more proof of it.
Right.
Right. And I was thinking about this, and I'm going to mention this. Then I am going to bring up the Noam Chomsky video. Is that when his wife responded, I thought, oh, Valeria, I get why she did, but I was like, when I saw that Aaron Motte was saying that, I hope that Valeria Chomsky will speak out. I'm like, she shouldn't, because it doesn't matter what she says, it will not matter. It won't matter. And it's just like, because, and sure enough, people are like, oh, she's only sorry because they got caught and they didn't care. And it's just performative, and, it doesn't excuse anything. And there's no excuse, and, all this stuff. And it was like, again, time traveling mind readers.
Right. Indeed.
Even though what she says makes sense, seems logical, and also makes sense that given what Epstein means now, that she would feel the need to say, of course, we, are in solidarity with the victims of sexual crimes and all that. But it's just like, girlfriend, she's thinking people are going to be reasonable and good faith. It's like, no, this is all enjoyment and desire and fantasy now. So it doesn't matter what she says. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter what he said.
Right.
At this point, it's going to have to blow over, Anyway.
I think there's a saying called the dogs bark and the caravan passes. I think that's what we have to say.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with my light. Do I look really dark to you?
I would say a bit dark, yes.
I don't know why I have this light, but
now it's a bit better.
Yeah, I have a light, like I have a ring light. It's pointing right at my face. I don't know. Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay. Hi, people. I don't know what's going on. Okay. I'm glad to know that it's not my eyes like giving out in real time. Okay. So, shush up, Tara, and put on the Noam Chomsky video. So I'm going to share my screen. Stop sharing. Share screen. Where is it? Here we go. Share. Okay, and I'm gonna...
which have become quite popular amongst those people who identify as progressive.
Why isn't it playing?
I know you've been...
It's playing.
Oh, is it? You can hear it? Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you think that they're
I can't hear it
now?
Well, first of all, there are conspiracies. No question about it. In fact, sometimes sometimes they have big effects. Like take the suburbanization of America, the huge government, state, corporate social engineering projects, which were largely dedicated to maximizing.
Should I speed it up, or is that okay?
Fossil
For me, it's okay.
With everything that goes along with it. Well, it may destroy the species, so it's not insignificant. But it did start as a literal conspiracy of General Motors, Standard Oil of California, and Firestone Rubber to buy up and destroy the fairly efficient electric transport system in Los Angeles and other cities, destroy it and turn it into the monstrosity we have. Okay, that was a conspiracy. In fact, they were taken to court and fined a couple $1,000. But looking for something hidden that's sort of beneath the surface, that's really running things, I think that's sometimes it's true, but usually it turns out to be a pathology. And I think it comes from a sense that I don't like the way things are. And so there must be some hidden hand somewhere that's manipulating and controlling it. Whereas when you look closely, I think you just see the normal workings of institutional structures. That makes you, of course, raise questions about the nature of the society, who we are, how we tolerate it, and so on. So, for example, it's appealing to believe that, say, John F. Kennedy, one of the main figures in conspiracy theory, what are called conspiracy theories. It would be nice to believe he's just a fantastically wonderful guy who's going to do all kind of great things, and they shot him down just because he was so wonderful, and the world has gone off hell in a handbasket ever since then. That's a comforting feeling. It's less comforting to recognize what I think the documentary record demonstrates in the historical record, that he was kind of a hawk who was a politician, trying to gain power by the usual techniques. He was kind of affable and friendly and smiled and knew how to butter people up. But if you take a look at what he was doing, it was pretty horrible. It's one of the worst, most dangerous creatures of the 20th century. And unfortunately, it didn't happen to blow up the world, but it came pretty close to it. That's a less comforting position. I happen to think it's largely true. Same with Barack Obama. But you can see the appeal of trying to find, take say Obama. There's a widespread feeling on the left, Middle Eastern commentators and so on, that he's really dedicated to doing wonderful things. It's just that dark forces are preventing. So we just have to hope that he's going to overcome the dark forces, like a hero in a fairy tale, and somehow get rid of the witches and dragons and everything will be nice. I don't think that there's any truth to that. I think exactly what he seems to be. And nobody's going to ride in on a white horseback and get rid of the dragons and the witches. Got to do it ourselves. That's harder.
Right. So would you say that conspiracy theories in general are not particularly helpful for radical politics and radical action?
If they're inaccurate. I mean, if they're accurate, as they sometimes are, sure, that helps explain the world. But most of what happens is, it's kind of, in a sense, it's a conspiracy. If the board of directors of General Motors get together and decide, okay, here's our plans for next year. It's kind of a conspiracy, but we don't call that a conspiracy theory because it's the normal working of institutions. And similarly, when the, take say during the Second World War, the high State Department planners and comparable figures in the private sector, like the Council on Foreign Relations, did meet and extensively discuss the nature of the post-war world and laid plans which were pretty well executed. Well, this happened to be public, but is it a conspiracy? They got together, they worked out plans, they later implemented them in a small group of people. They have special interests, not the interests of the population, but exposing that makes perfect sense. That's not what's called a conspiracy theory, because that's the way institutions operate. And that makes sense. On the other hand, I don't like to use the term because there are conspiracies. It's called a conspiracy theory if we don't like it or something. It's not the way to look at it. What you have to ask is whether the theories of a conspiracy are accurate. So let's take, say, the idea that the Bush administration plotted to blow up the World Trade Center. That attracts a huge support. Maybe a third of the population believes it, and very dedicated groups of people, many of them on the left, are just committed to that. Well, is it plausible? Suppose that the let's say somebody conspired to blow up the World Trade Center. We know what they did. They blamed it on Saudis. I mean, would the Bush administration blame it on Saudis, thereby shooting themselves in the, in the feet? I mean, if they wanted to bomb Iraq, so if they organized it, they would have blamed it on Iraqis. Then they'd have no problem at all getting congressional authorization, a UN resolution. NATO would join in. Everybody'd say, "Fine, let's invade Iraq." Instead, whoever did it blamed it on Saudis. Well, that absolves the Bush administration, short of outright insanity. Why harm your relations with a valued ally instead of blaming it on the people you want to invade? And so it's already a barrier to even entertaining the possibility. And the elaborate work that goes into, is there nanothermite in building 7 or whatever it is, it's kind of beside the point. Yeah, maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, unless you have a pretty sophisticated knowledge of civil engineering and structural architecture. You can't even make a judgment as to whether it means anything. But there are obvious, clear phenomena that the theory has to deal with somehow, and doesn't. And if it doesn't, I don't see a reason to take it seriously. So yes, then it becomes one of these kinds of conspiracy theory that just mislead and misdirect energy and so on. It wouldn't surprise me if, say, 40 years from now, we get declassified documents which show that the Bush administration was very sympathetic to these theories. It was diverting energy from real crimes into things that are basically a wild goose chase. Actually, we have documents like that about the Kennedy assassination. So there are Pentagon advisory documents which advise the Pentagon, the government, to periodically leak information about the Kennedy assassination, basically so as to keep people out of our hair, let them follow those non-existent leads instead of asking us questions that we really don't want to answer.
So real conspiracy theory there.
And there we have the actual documents. And it wouldn't shock me if there are similar things about 9/11 conspiracies. I mean, they do have an immediate effect. They draw a lot of energy and effort away from major crimes, the crimes which are a lot worse than blowing up the World Trade Center. So that's convenient for the powerful. And since the theories seem to have just major logical problems that I don't see how they confront, like what I mentioned, it does seem to me the kind of theory that misleads and misdirects. And it's not hard to see why it's popular. I mean, some terrible things are going on. There should be some dark hand behind it. We hate Bush and Rumsfeld for good reasons, so maybe they're behind it.
Oh, right. Can you hear me? Oh, now I can't hear you.
Because I had put myself
on
mute. Not your problem. So I was saying spot on when he says there has to be a dark hand behind it, right? So now we know the dark hand, and the dark hand compelled Professor Chomsky not to accept conspiracy theories of the sort that people wanted him to. And the only reason, the clip that you showed, the only reason that clip exists and his views exist is because he was always in bed with all these dark hands.
I think if you look clearly, you see the earbud, like the first generation earbud, and he was being fed from Langley, or maybe from Tel Aviv Mossad. He was being fed what to say. I mean, it's the Truman Show.
Terrible.
And I get it, I mean, I think that because there are, it's how you can have like the kind of stereotypical, the board, and then you have like the strings going across that. Okay, it's like, okay, that's a start. And then you fill in the blanks, and you have to go and see what you can, if you want to actually go and see what there's there. But it's, of course, we're human. We want to reduce things in ways that's manageable and understandable, or like what Frederick Jameson would call the cognitive mapping. So it's like and that phrase, I think it's attributed to him, that it's easier for people to imagine the end of the world than an end to capitalism. Well, I think it's also easier for people to imagine a global satanic pedo espionage ring rather than that we have institutions and structures that incentivize and generate the outcomes that we see all around us.
Right.
You know,
Indeed.
and so it's nice and it's terrifying, but also a relief to be like, well, but for, you know, if JFK hadn't have been assassinated, then, you know, or but for if nobody ever said anything critical about the Leninist party states, then we'd be living in a whole other world, you know. It's like, and I think also I wonder sometimes, I mean, I also, yeah, when I look at the things, I'm like, yeah, it could very well be that, you know, a lot of people had issues with what JFK was doing. So it could very well be that the Dulles and the mob and who else, you know, and all those people, like they, you know, either actively conspired to do it or they just kind of did what they did to leave him hanging in the wind. So if somebody wanted to do it, yeah, totally possible that it was an inside job or largely an inside job or whatever you want to call it. But it's like, okay, what if tomorrow everyone woke up and they had a press conference and they said, yeah, it was the Dulleses and Hoffa and a little bit of, you know, Cuba or whatever it was, you know. Yeah, we that's true. We found the envelope. We found the secret envelope in the secret room in Langley that said, truth about JFK. We opened it up and it had the little map out for us. Okay, it's true. Then what? What changes? Nothing changes.
Right. The structures are the same. Exactly.
You know, it's like, you know, yes. Or if let's say that they were to find, they put the maximalist story. That's another term. The Epstein maximalists are right. And let's say we finally get our 20 top tier pedophiles / espionage people, and we put them on trial, and they go away, and more victims get money. Then what? What changes? Nothing changes. If anything, it's like you fed the populist beast. You've channeled that. You said, look, we got rid of our bad apples. You know, we've learned. You know, it's like, oh, this was terrible. And then what? Housing prices go down. The economy gets better. There's less. The military-industrial complex gets dismantled. Grow up, people.
Right.
Grow up.
Yeah.
Nothing in the daily life would change. Nothing. Yeah. Which is why this is great, as he said or implied. It's great for the quote-unquote powers that be that people are freaking out about this, even though it's problematic. I don't know how they're going to land the plane. You know, about who's going to have to, you know, if they're just going to wait for it to burn out, or if they're going to, you know, maybe after Prince Andrew or whatever it is, they get some people on tax evasion, like getting Al Capone on tax evasion or something, you know. Then what?
Yes. Yeah. But
I just find it, I understand it. And I also, you know, I liked, what's his name? Oliver Stone's JFK movie, you know, I can get down with that stuff, you know, and I'm sure that, yeah, that there are intelligence agencies. They collect intelligence, and they probably want to have, they collect information they can use to leverage people or to blackmail people or all kinds of things. Yeah. And I don't.
Yeah, but yeah,
I just like what comes after that.
Yeah. People are really angry and they're latching onto these things. And yeah, there's a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, decades in the making, I would say. And yeah, this is the sign of the times, basically. Cultural
what if they got the smoking gun that, yeah, the Tel Aviv was into 9/11 up to its eyeballs. And then Tel Aviv can have, then the Israelis can have some sort of thing, and they're like, oh my God, there was this, oh, this is terrible. What a blemish. There was this random sect that was acting on its own volition, you know?
Right.
Is it going to make the war on terror go away? I get it from like a dramatic entertainment, you know, type of thing. But in terms of politics, meaningful politics, material politics, you know, I get that it feeds the tabloid left, and it's nice to want to put these stories that make it easy who the bad guys are, who the good guys are, you know, the sorting hat, like the Harry Potter sorting hat or something. But it's like, well, then what? Everyone's mobilized and organized to what? I don't know. And I'm going to bring Shane up now because Shane, this is a good point because I've noticed that the people talking the most about, like, kind of at least from what I've seen, about, you know, the controlled left or intelligence friendly left or, you know, deep state Noam are kind of people like Max Blumenthal, Kit Clarenberg, who else? Matt Kennard. So do you want to say something about, so this seems like a good time for you to come in and chime in about what you think about that aspect of it, about him being, you know, clearly an asset.
Well, I don't need to, well, I won't say anything about Chris Hedges or Vijay Prashad because I feel that Rameez very eloquently already addressed it in his video, and I'm sure. And
after we do this part, then we're going to end with that, with the Inquisitor. Nice. Yes.
Yeah, amazing. So I'll leave that to you guys. Yeah. So for me, I just wanted to make a couple of brief comments about the British investigative journalist Matt Kennard, because, I mean, to speak broadly, he is an important voice in investigative journalism. He critiques elite structures. He critiques power structures. So as an investigative journalist, he brings a lot of value. And on the so we'll go through the timeline, okay? But I'll just start at the end, and I will say that when these new files were released, linking or showing correspondence between Noam Chomsky and Jeffrey Epstein, Matt Kennard tweeted 2 days after the release of the files, and he tweeted the following. He said, "Chomsky was a major influence on me and millions of others. He is a seminal figure on the global left." So far, so good. And he says, but his consorting, we'll come back to that word consorting, with Epstein is unforgivable. All right, we'll come back to that word as well. A shameful coda to a life dedicated to exposing power and lies. So if we just look at that statement, first of all, he uses the verb consorting. To consort is to associate with somebody against the approval of others, right? And if we look at the time frame that Noam Chomsky was associating with Jeffrey Epstein, it was from 2015 to 2019, at a time when nobody knew about these pedophile rings. Nobody was, Jeffrey Epstein was quite openly associating with everybody, and there wasn't any shame attached to it. So this is a retrospective application of the verb consorting with hindsight. At the time, he was not consorting, he was just associating with. And then the second word that I really take issue with is unforgivable. And a high-quality journalist like Matt Kennard using the word unforgivable about corresponding with Jeffrey Epstein and even having dinners, meeting with him, having a friendship with him. What was so unforgivable about? And in fairness, in the tweet, at least the tweet that he retweets is the email of advice that Chomsky has given to Epstein about when Epstein got in touch and said, look, you know, how should I address all this media? We have no proof at all, or any evidence that Chomsky was aware of Jeffrey Epstein being, a rapist, a pedophile. We have no evidence that Chomsky knew about this. So,
well, there's no evidence that he is.
Well, okay. It was right.
in terms of pedophilia, just to be precise.
Yeah.
No, there is. Yeah. So there is. He did. There with the Florida case, he did plead guilty to 2 charges of prostitution, including with a young woman who was, or girl, whatever you want to call it, who was 17 years old. That's for sure. He did that, and you can see the case that was when they were doing their investigation, the people in Florida, they went and talked to a lot of these young women, and you can see the proffer. I don't know what you call it. Well, you might know. Anyway, yeah. So
sure. No. The wider point is not with Jeffrey Epstein. The point is with Matt Kennard, right? A voice. 2 weeks ago, he was at the Cambridge Union. You can watch the video on YouTube, and he got up and he argued for a radical left for the United Kingdom. And he argued how the UK needs a strong, organised left against the organised right. So this is normally a voice of reason. So to have such a reactionary emotional response 2 days after the release of the files, I feel is disappointing, and it's frustrating from a voice that does carry weight. And I suppose, no, I absolutely do not allege that he is being cynical, right? And very quickly disassociating himself from Chomsky. But if we do look at the connection between the two of them, all right, and let's start at the time frame. 2019, the revelations about Jeffrey Epstein comes out. In April 2023, the famous comments by Noam Chomsky was contacted by the Wall Street Journal, and they said, you know, what is your connection to Epstein? He goes, well, first, it's none of your business. And secondly, we met occasionally. So that was April 2023. Then mid-May 2023, Business Insider revealed that Jeffrey Epstein had moved money around for Noam Chomsky. All right. And then in late May 2023, Matt Kennard managed to obtain and was granted a 1-hour interview with Noam Chomsky, where his stated aim of the interview was to promote his book. And he wanted to have this interview with Chomsky in the hope that Chomsky would write a foreword for his book. So this would be,
and that book was good, by the way. I read that book.
Yeah, The Rockhill, right?
Yeah.
So if we want to be like really cynical here, we could say, well, look, you are the head of investigations, and you would have been aware in April that Chomsky has already said it's none of your business, and I've met with. So he knew that he was meeting Jeffrey Epstein. By mid-May, he knew that there was being money handled by Jeffrey Epstein, and he chose to ignore all of that in order to obtain a forward for his book. Now, we could read that really cynically. And then, of course, unfortunately, Noam got sick. They sat on the interview for a year, and then it came out. Now, this is like almost irrelevant, but it is worth noting, right? There are thousands of videos of Noam Chomsky on YouTube, and Matt Kennard's interview with Noam is the 33rd most viewed video ever of Noam Chomsky. And of Matt Kennard, all the videos of Matt Kennard on YouTube, it's the second most watched. So I'm sure he has benefited from his association with Noam Chomsky. And as soon as these new emails come out where Noam Chomsky advises his friend, almost immediately, 2 days later, how could he have had time to even process what he was reading? He comes out and says, it's unforgivable. And so I take real issue with that. And I would hope, because I don't want to, I think I agree with him. I think that the left needs to unite. So I don't want to cast him aside. What I would hope is he's had time to process properly everything, and that his opinion on it would have evolved, and he could then update, because he definitely has a platform, and it's such a pity for such an influential voice like his to say what Noam did was forgivable.
Well, Shane, you're a very reasonable, calm, rational man, and you have a calming aura about you. So I would want you to be my attorney. Anyway, I would just say that two things. That also, even if you go back and say, okay, what was reasonable for Chomsky to have known about him at that time? The advice he gave him, and again, people are acting like he was offering to be his Olivia Pope or something, like he was doing like PR things and like going to do like, okay, this is what you do. You get all the dirt on these so-called victims and you go on the offensive. I mean, it was just kind of generic advice. I mean, people wanting to read it again, because he's been so demonized and cast as this like ultimate evil guy who did nothing 24/7 besides predate on children and women and children. And it's like, that's doesn't make sense to impugn that on that thing. And my guess is also to give him the benefit of the doubt, Jeffrey Epstein clearly helped him out of that financial situation, right? The money he moved around wasn't him giving his own money to Chomsky. It was him dealing with this trust thing. It seems that's fairly established. No one's disputed that. And it's like, so here's this guy, he's 90-some years old. Again, I'm not saying he was out of his thing. This guy has done him a favor. Yeah, didn't ask for anything in return. Sure, is it a feather in Epstein's cap that he has a relationship with Chomsky? Of course, but it's not like Chomsky was doing PR for him or public events for him. So if you consider that, and he gets this email saying he's in this firestorm, this press firestorm, his advice seems pretty banal to me, and good advice.
Yes.
So again, I know what you're saying, and it's like you would expect people like Matt Kennard to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to take a moment, I'm going to take a couple days, I'm going to look at this before I, you know, to use Rameez's thing, throw him under the bus and say it was unforgivable. Unforgivable. And that is a fantastic segue to Inquisitor Hedges.
Hedges.
And I just have to say this is it's unrelated, but just in terms of the left, this late stage left, whenever anybody says the left should not unite, they mean you should unite around what I think,
right, and
who I like.
Right.
You know, he's out there pimping for that guy from the Green Party. Like that guy hasn't said doesn't have, like, if you're like just from an imperialist, anti-imperialist thing, really you think the Greens are going to save us? I mean, talk about designated opposition. Go smoke another one, Matt. Anyway, sorry, I'm not as nice as Shane.
No, I think Rameez said it earlier though that you know, people are frustrated and are disenfranchised, and
all true.
True. And you know, you can, and there is for sure evidence of very powerful elite people doing corrupt things, and so people see a headline, people see someone like Noam Chomsky, and it fits a certain narrative. So it's a sign of frustration by most people.
Well, it's also interesting that I haven't paid much, maybe because my feed is all too center left, but the people who are going after him the most, all on the left side of the spectrum.
Yes, 90,
and again, the only people who are starting to be like, well, hold on, wait a second. The left again is leaving this whole lane wide open for the right to come in and seem reasonable, rational, like let's take it down a notch, let's calm down. Yeah, we got to get to the bottom of it, but let's not go on these witch hunts. Let's not like destroy people's reputations, you know, whatever. And also, again, a lot of people want to be like, well, who gives a crap if these rich, you know, like, why should I care if Prince Andrew's having a hard time, you know, or who else, Lex Wexner or something. It's like, okay, fine. But due process and innocent before proven guilty and civil liberties are important to fight for. And if you don't stand up for them when people you don't like are under the knife or under the axe, how do you think people who don't have these resources are going to fare?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to
find it so
go
short-sighted. Go ahead, Rameez.
I just wanted to say something to Shane's point and his disappointment with Matt. I think that's for me as well, not with Matt, but with basically.
I hear an echo. Am I the only one that hears an echo?
I hear an echo as well. Yes. Maybe
well,
Shane, could you
put yourself on mute for a minute?
No problem.
Yeah, that would help. Yes, now it's fine. So
it was Shane. It's always a crapshoot on StreamYard. Go ahead, Rameez.
I'm just sabotaging the
deep state.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Rameez, I didn't do a background on Shane.
Yeah,
I have no idea. He could be the most evil person ever. And look at him charming me with his boyish good looks and his innocence. I hope I'm not consorting with a known sex offender. Sorry, espionage guy. Have you been to Tel Aviv lately? Okay, I'm sorry. Rameez, all you.
Yeah. To Shane's point about disappointment with Matt, right? And I think that's been the crystallizing thing. It's not with Matt, but with the global left in general. And my feeling is that if we are so quick to bury the finest amongst us, and if we are so quick to jump to conclusions, if we are so spineless, if we are so disloyal, if we are so quick to sling mud, then what kind of a better world can this left build? I mean, you know, like we have shown through this that we are entirely unready, you know, and not serious at all to do anything constructive. It goes beyond Chomsky. It's just that this level of fickleness and this level of, you know, disloyalty and jumping to conclusions, mudslinging. And if we can't even defend the best amongst us, then how are we going to defend anybody else and fight for anybody else? Mm-hmm. People are out there preening and virtue signaling or grinding their exes for their, you know, they've all shown their quote unquote true selves, or let's say shallow selves. And it does raise a question that where is the global left going if this is the global left?
In the ground, hopefully, so something new can rise from the ashes, and Shane's generation can you know, sort all this out. Go ahead, come on.
So I'm going to have to leave in a moment, so I'll just first I'll say thank you for having me on, and yeah, like I totally agree that if we're so quick to throw others under the bus? Where will it leave us? And I think this whole, for a long time, when there would be a global event or something would happen in the news, I would often look to see what Chomsky has said on it. And, I would really use him as like a guiding light. And I'm now approaching for the first time in my life where I can no longer, normally I would have Google searched Noam Chomsky, Epstein Files, and I would have seen what he said just to help me structure my thoughts. But now, unfortunately, the wonderful Chomsky is incapable of communicating. And so I'm approaching a moment in my life where I have to start trusting my own judgment. I also have to I'm looking for like other voices. And what was great to see Rameez's video was, one, it was a reminder to myself that I don't know why I didn't make a video in his defense either. So it was a really inspiring thing that Rameez did it. It made me feel less alone in the world. It made me remember that there are like really wonderful people out there, just ordinary people. There's not going to be one person that's going to be able to like save the world. It's all of us together. I mean, I don't know where you are, Tara, but I know that Rameez is from Pakistan but living in the Netherlands. I'm Irish, living in Spain. And
so I'm American but based in the UK for a while now. So yeah.
There you go. And here we all are, and finding common ground. So it was a wonderful discovery. Both of you have been a wonderful discovery. I hope we'll get a chance to speak again.
Yeah, and I just want to say on that note, Shane, that how positive you are. I thank you because it's I try to talk. I'm a bit isolated. I try to talk politics with my kids, but they just don't want to hear it. They're like, Mom. I'm like, you don't understand. But I wanted to say that also when this first went down and there just was nobody. Nobody was popping up to be like, even to say like, well, let's just take a moment, And I really felt I had just finally watched Pluribus. I don't know if you're familiar with that show. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like Carol. Like, are there even 13 people that are unjoined?
Yeah, there are. There really are. There really are. Because I was always here. And then when I saw Rameez's video, I reached out to Rameez, and you reached out to Rameez. So we're here. We are out there. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Shane. And I hope that this is that to have you back on again sometime. After I do a thorough background check, believe you me. So I'll need all your details and a DNA sample and fingerprint. Because you can't be too careful. I don't want to commit some unforgivable association. Okay. Thank you, Shane. See you next time. Okay, so who do we want to
I think Mr. Chris Hedges is
Mr. Chris Hedges. Okay. Mr. Chris Hedges. So you go ahead and start, and I will bring him up on the screen.
So
it's garbage. Chris Hedges trashes Chomsky's Epstein excuses.
So basically, I don't know when they recorded this podcast, but I think, I don't know exactly, but before that, I think he should have received my video. I don't know if he bothered to see it or not. I had mailed him. And I had said, this is for you. And I also mentioned the Dostoevsky reference with Father Pierrepont and so on and so forth. I'm guessing either he didn't see it or he was just smirking and saying, dismissing my video.
And I want to say that was a great reference. And I used to be more literary than I am now because all my time is spent reading nonfiction and research stuff. But I was like, oh my God, I was like, that is such a great reference. I was talking about like Vyshinsky from the show trials. And
exactly. So maybe I can explain it a bit. For those who don't know, in Brothers Karamazov, when Father Zosima dies, and then this Father Pierrepont, who's this very, very straight, cynical and straight, very strict, rigid father, he comes, and when Father Zosima's corpse starts smelling, Father Pierrepont says, "Oh, this is the smell of corruption," and Father Zosima was corrupt, and this is all. He was a bad man, and he just basically goes after him. And there's this Alyosha, who's the protagonist. He's basically just heartbroken at all the mud that is being slung against Father Zosima. And I felt pretty much a bit like Alyosha in the sense that all the mudslinging that is going on against Professor Chomsky. So Chris Hedges is, in my video, I mentioned the Iraq War defector story. He also had the Iran is going to be making a bomb story, Israeli and US intelligence officers say, or agents say, or whatever agencies say. And to pretend to be so to be so sanctimonious after that kind of a track record, and everybody makes mistakes and it's fine, but then to be so self-righteous and sanctimonious and accusing someone who had been speaking out for the downtrodden and the oppressed for decades before you even joined, and you were in fact working for the New York Times for half your career, and for you to do that, it's unfathomable to me, the level of sanctimonious, like self-righteousness Chris Hedges displayed in saying that he knew, and he says, let me assure you, they all knew, let me assure you, Chomsky knew. I mean, who is he to assure anybody? Who is he? Who is he? I mean,
again, he's a time traveling mind reader.
Because this just shows again a level of sanctity, because no, you are not. I mean, I liked Chris Hedges, and I still like many of the things that he has done. But the fact is, he has done a lot of bad things in his life, and we let them go as mistakes because everybody makes mistakes. But now for him to pretend to be, to that he has never done any, to be so sanctimonious and to cast someone who has done far more for the, left or the global, left movement or whatever you want to call it, as opposed to. So let me just give you an example. So when he was sitting around with Václav Havel, which is fine because Havel was a dissident, Chomsky was saying that, of course, Havel is a dissident, but then Havel did such a bad thing when he came to the Congress and praised the US for being a beacon of freedom, when at the same time, Havel's colleagues in South America were being killed by the U.S. Armed forces. So and Chris Hedges knows none of this history, and he was not part of the movement. He joined the game late. Thank you, thank you, and most welcome. And but then for you to be
don't you also find interesting that it must be part of his writer. I don't know if they have those, but like how he wants to be introduced, because every time he's introduced, it's the former New York Times Mideast correspondent. Right. So he wants that institutional accolade.
Right. Or maybe it's the speakers who do it.
What's that about? It's just to me, it's just that it's like he doesn't know, and he's like a frustrated minister. He wants to be on the pulpit, and that's fine. And also, he's a good writer, but he writes the same thing over and over again. Right. He does. Right. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Now, to be fair to him, until the situation, the structure, until there's a major structural change, what can you do? Exactly. But also, it's like, okay, yeah, American fascist, the death of the liberal class. Okay.
As you said, he's a great writer. Yeah, he's a very good writer. He's very well read.
He's at best a two-trick pony.
Right. But that doesn't justify of what he has been doing. And
no, that's what I'm saying is I don't.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I was getting to like this. There's this strain in him.
Sure.
That he likes to judge clearly, and that it's not just that he went out of his way, and now he's doing the podcast circuit, pretend like he's some sort of time traveling mind reader. Right. I mean, it's like not giving Chomsky any benefit of the doubt.
No.
And again, the kind of the most self-serving interpretation of the facts of the matter.
So he did not, of course, reply to my first mail. But then when this garbage video came out, then I sent him another mail, which of course he didn't reply either. But do you want me to read it out to you?
Please.
What I wrote. So I wrote to him.
This is Rameez reading the email he sent to Chris Hedges after it's garbage.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I say, well done. Not only have you shown no self-reflection, but in your interview with Miss Gray, you went further and dismissed all such explanations as quote-unquote garbage. As recently as 2023, Professor Chomsky repeatedly stated in his emails that he did not know till the flurry of revelations later came out. Yet you are effectively calling him a liar. On one side stands Professor Chomsky, who devoted his entire life to speaking out for the downtrodden. On the other side stands you, who arrived on the scene much later, after spending half your career at the New York Times. And still you presume to brand him dishonest. It is truly astonishing. The sanctimonious certainty with which you do so is difficult to fathom. Even as you read this email, I cannot help but imagine you dismissively smirking, giving no serious thought to your actions, are my words to you in the video. Best Rameez.
Yes.
So yeah.
True? Yeah, no.
yeah, that's it.
I think that, yeah. So, and on that note, what's his name? Michael Tracy also mentioned Chris Hedges in his compact piece, and did some, also had some further responses to that. So I'm going to share that, hopefully. Let's see, share screen. Hopefully this works. There we go. Yeah, so here, can people see? I'm going to zoom. Let me zoom. Not that kind of zoom. There we go. All right. How's that? Let's see if we go down here. Okay. So this is from Don Quixote. Chomsky in a lose-lose position. If Chomsky stayed in his academic ivory tower, spent his time off socializing with Howard Zinn, Pete Seeger, and Tariq Ali, people on the right would say Chomsky's stuck in a left-wing bubble, cut off from reality. Chomsky gets out of the house and meets political enemies, and then becomes a traitor to the left. Yeah,
exactly.
Chris is also very calm. He strikes me as he's a kind of a Shane type guy, but he's had enough. So this is into a Truth Dig post. How is it possible that Chomsky, with his sharp computer-like mind and his profound morality, was palling around with such a shady, nefarious character? Tabloid! And Chris Wright, grow the F up. He was in his late 80s, and his wife got him involved with this guy who helped him terribly through a terrible financial situation with his children. You people are embarrassments. You have to grow the F up and realize not every single person you know is a saint. Anybody may very well be friends with a terrible person. Sociopaths and psychopaths can be charming and friendly and even good friends. It's sad that even left-wing media are validating Chomsky's point in that infamous email about hysteria of cancel culture. Yeah. I always knew people were unintelligent, but I didn't know they were this unintelligent.
Yeah.
I'm also getting my enjoyment in here. Michael Tracy. In his little screed a few days ago, Chris Hedges cries out that Chomsky knew about Epstein's abuse of children. They all knew. And like others in Epstein orbit, they did not care. Despite his smug certitude, Hedges clearly does not know and does not care that Epstein was never alleged to have committed any sexually violative acts against any alleged children after the year 2005. That's right. Even if you go by mere allegations, which of course should never be taken as dispositive of anything, the federal indictment of Epstein in July 2019 alleges only illicit non-adult sexual contact that occurred at the latest in 2005. And that's of the 17-year-old in Florida. The indictment, which is not good, indictment was mostly a spiced up rehash of old, already investigated allegations from at least 14 years prior, which the feds tried to strategically reframe as quote unquote trafficking rather than prostitution, which is what the common legal, cultural, political parlance would have been in the early 2000s. So again, by the time Epstein became acquainted with Chomsky around 2013-2015, it had been nearly a full decade since there was any discernible claim that Epstein had done anything sexually improper with anyone under the age of 18. What quote-unquote children, therefore, was Chomsky supposed to have been so hyper-vigilant about protecting between 2015 and 2019, when most of his visits and emails with Epstein appear to have taken place? Hedges seems to imagine Chomsky sinisterly looking the other way as Epstein dips out of an impromptu linguistics seminar to go rape some preteens. This is totally ridiculous caricature of what actually went on with the Epstein legal saga, but a lot of people seem to vaguely believe some version of it, or presumably they wouldn't be so willing to disown their own former idol. Yeah. So, and one thing that I wanted to add on the, oops, this is still playing, that can't be good, is that there's also this thing, this people like using this as an example of, okay, even if he didn't do anything like legally wrong,
right? There's
this picture of him with Steve Bannon, and there's a picture of him like again humanizing these people who they want to hate or like really like think are the like, you know, the Satan come again. And it's like, well, and I think it's so funny. It's like who like we're all in and of this system.
Right.
It's like you and I are on X. I have this phone that probably has rare earth metals that were not sourced nicely You know, we're all immersed in the commodity form. We're all in and of and live our everyday lives in capitalism. Yes, he was a professor at MIT. So these people who think that you can only say anything critical about the system or US foreign policy if you then never share any air with anybody who has an opposite opinion, only if you live out in the woods and don't make use of any of the infrastructure. It's such hypocrisy.
Right.
You know, these people, it's like, okay, you first then, you know,
right.
People in glass houses. It's like, there's a lot of things about liberal capitalism or illiberal capitalism that I take serious issue with, a lot of people with, but it's the world we live in. It's the world I was born in. Right, you know, so like what, you don't work for somebody or someone doesn't work for you. You don't go buy commodities from the grocery store. What are you, off the freaking grid? You don't like, why don't you look at where the cobalt comes from? People need to get off the cross. It's just like, seriously.
Right.
Oh my God. He took a picture and it looks like him and Bannon were actually, it looked like they were having a you know, like whatever happened before or after, they were having a nice conversation. Oh my God, get the rope. People are crazy. And also, I've had this before. People will see somebody, Jimmy Dore, let's use him as an example. People were mad at him when he didn't challenge RFK Jr.'s rant about Israel, right?
Right.
Oh, and people like this, like if I was talking to RFK or if I was talking to Trump, I'd say this, that. Really? Would you? Because I'll tell you what I would do if I was having even like virtually or in the same place with somebody. Am I going to totally go WWF if they're not in the practice of doing the crime right there? You know, you can ask serious questions, you can challenge, you can, but whatever. But the idea that if you don't knock down, drag down, the idea that he could dare have a social moment with Steve Bannon. Burn the witch. People are. I mean, it's like, please.
Vis-a-vis Professor Chomsky, I mean, he has always been very open. I remember from almost 2 decades back when he always said, listen, I have right-wing friends. I have many right-wing friends. Mm-hmm. And as for meeting with war criminals, he had always said that he has met a lot of war criminals in his life. You know, he has not, like, he wouldn't. So everybody is
every president of the United States.
Right.
How about all these people that interviews? It's like the idea that if you that again, it's this guilt by association and this immediate taint is crazy. And it's fun if you're getting off on, you know, judging and, you know, and whatever, and the red meat and the populist passions and all this stuff. But it's like, please, people, please.
Yes.
Most people would think it's a good thing that when you're having an interaction with somebody, that you're not being a total dick.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, unless they're acting like he was going to these parties and there was like sex dungeons all around him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bizarre.
To your point, Michael Albert of ZNet, he had said something similar. He said, listen, Chomsky has always been like this. He would meet people and then even the worst of people, and he would be civil to them. He wouldn't say, oh, I want to, you know, F you up and you, how dare you sit with me and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. There's different, I agree. What people need to realize is people are different. Some people would maybe start kicking and beating up the other person, but some wouldn't. That doesn't mean that.
So most wouldn't, please.
Sure. But the point is people can be different. I mean, this is not like, if maybe that's your standard, but that wasn't his standard, and you shouldn't try to impose your standard on him.
Mm-hmm. But I just, you know, it's just, we see people all the time. It's like, I can see rich people and elites. I can go down. Am I going to go down and, like, you know, spit at them and throw water at them as they come out of the parliament? And if I don't do that, and the people who don't do that, are they really not critical? Are they really not serious? They just, quote unquote, controlled opposition.
Yeah, I think that's
it's like, you know, Matt Kennard is really pals with Jeremy Corbyn. Is he blameless? Is he isn't talk one way, do another? Did he not throw people under the bus, the whole anti-Semitism thing? But he's not, you know, I mean, it's just, these aren't equitable examples because Epstein has such a connotation now in the cultural, in the zeitgeist, that it's hard to make a perceivable, comparison. But most people, you know, like if somehow I was in the White House and I was having I was invited to dinner and there was Trump and Bannon and who knows, all the bad guys, Steve Miller, Stephen Miller, Mark Rubio. Am I not going to go? I'm totally going to go. Am I going to be polite because I'm in the White House? Whatever. Yeah. It doesn't mean I'm going to, swallow their slop hole. If I have an opportunity to speak my mind and say something with, I'm not going to go into expletives and take a poop on the table and leave, because what would be the point of that?
Right.
And does that mean that I'm all on board, that I'm pals and think that they're positions and they're fantastic people? No.
But the moment says that you are. That's the whole thing. The moment, this is the moment that we're living in.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, how to wrap this up, Rameez? I do want to talk about two things. Let's see. I just want to mention this because this campism, which is actually a term that I also recently learned about. So the idea that it's again this idea that if you can't either, if you are serious about being in opposition to the U.S.-led hegemony, then you can't say anything negative about any of the people who are catching hell. So this is just another example of this. So this is before the Chomsky thing came out, but this is just another. It's because it's part and parcel of this left, this late stage left, that can't admit defeat, and that the 20th century is over. So Nora, she committed the sin of tweeting out, Iranians deserve freedom and self-determination. They're being brutalized in their fight for it. This battle exceeds this moment and is being led by mass movements built over decades. And then she links to this essay. Okay. David Miller gets back. Nora Erakat, like some other bourgeois Palestinians in diaspora, is embarrassing herself by shilling for a Mossad terror campaign on the Islamic Republic. The world's most important anti-imperialist power this week, I thought it was China and Russia. And before that, it was Venezuela. We used to say that Syria was the real litmus test of anti-imperialists and anti-Zionists, as well as being a test of intellect. Today, Iran is the litmus test. Either you are anti-Zionist and anti-imperialist with the Islamic Republic, or with the genocidal Mossad and Pavlovist barbarians. Okay, let me read some more from. I have two more from him, and then I want to get your point, and then I have a little clip from Toni Morrison. Ooh. David Miller. Is it any surprise that Noam Chomsky, who appears to have been a close friend of Mossad's super spy and the world's most notorious pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, was titillated by the prospect of stripping Iranian women of their dignity via the CIA-sponsored Islamophobic anti-hijab psychological warfare operation known as Women Life Freedom, a slogan which is as nonsensical as it is astroturfed? Wow. And finally, and now this is my favorite part. I think you might want to prepare yourself for this. I don't know why maybe it's the sun. I guess this is weird. If the sun goes through my window, then I get darker. I don't know how that could be. One final thing. Like it or not, Nick Fuentes is correct on this. Well, do you know who Nick Fuentes is?
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
I know.
On this, well, Noam Chomsky, Yanis Varoufakis, and the Zionist Western left has embraced the regime change position of Netanyahu. So anyway, so I'm thinking like, okay, so my point is campism seems to breed shameless hypocrisy along with denial, bargaining, and I misspelled it, anger. So my thing about this is that, okay, now what do you want to say about this? If you have anything to say about this approach to disciplining our left comrades.
So I think that this is also one of the, I don't know what the word is, because this is a recurring theme. So this happens every frigging time.
Yeah. So
if you say anything bad about Stalinist USSR, then you're somehow during the 50s, let's say, or whatever, and then you are somehow an advocate or a defender of US imperialism. So this keeps on happening all the time. And I do agree, one cannot apply schoolboy ethics to it, saying, oh, this is bad, or everybody's bad, or whatever. And I do recognize geostrategic relations and so on and so forth. But all that Noura is saying is that, I mean, I don't see what's wrong with what she's saying, right? She's supporting the popular movement, and are we denying that there was a popular movement? Can we deny that there was a popular movement? Number one.
Because their point is that it was 100%. It was 100% CIA and Mossad. There's no. Don't you know? There's no internal contradictions in Iran. That within the state, within the Islamic Republic, there's no contradictions at all. They're all on the same page.
Yes. So I think their logic often is, if I'm not mistaken, that if it's basically the George Bush logic, right? You're with us or against us, because they say that if you were supporting the movement in Iran, the indigenous movement in Iran, which may have some external influences as well, then you are being a stooge for imperialism, because you're giving the imperialists the power to attack and destroy Iran.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what Noura is doing, and neither Yanis Varoufakis and so on. So my point is, why do we keep, this is a recurring theme. It's why haven't we solved it one way or the other? Like, why does this happen all the time?
To me, this is the politics of, this is a politics of defeat. If all you can do is shout at people who don't toe your line. Again, here's the same thing. It's this idea, like, what if all of the people who think they're on the left said nothing about said nothing like what Nora's saying, and they all in unison said this is what do you call it, a color regime op,
right.
It's all CIA and Mossad. What would be different now? It's like we can't even stop a genocide from happening, or even slow it down. Yes. And we think that this is how this is what's going to keep Trump from going full hog on Iran.
Right. So this is more
stupid. It's like the left is is politically impotent.
Exactly.
They got nothing but grievance and tabloid and relitigating the past and putting each other on the firing range. And somehow they think that somehow is vitality, and somehow that's the mobilization and organization is going to stream from it. If they could just get all their people in line, then what? What?
I agree.
And I can understand the idea that time and a place people, and I have no doubt, obviously it's quite clear that obviously, is the CIA and Mossad and other people, do they want to destabilize Iran? 100%.
Of course.
Would they fan those flames? 100%. Would they try to get people to start shooting guns and maybe start something off so they can create more animosity between the public and the state in Iran? 100%.
True.
But the idea that but for Noura and those other people who don't agree with this campus position, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and you can't say anything negative about any regime. I don't want to say the regime, but any group or country or whatever that the U.S. has on its naughty list that it's targeting for all this nasty stuff. That somehow that in of itself is going to be what? It's going to make, again, what's going to change?
Yes, I think
it's you can have remember the against the Iraq war, huge anti-war marches didn't matter a stitch. They don't care. They don't care. So until we get mass strikes, or until we get people who start refusing in the military and whatnot, start refusing to do these things. What?
Yes.
I mean, and it's like, David, to me, I understand it. I can understand his frustration. Also, he was pushed out of university for anti-Semitism because, total bullshit. But it's like going around and beating Noura, and the other bourgeois Palestinians in diaspora. It's like, dude, what skin does he have in this game? He's a white dude in the UK. He's fucking petite bourgeois to the ground, yo. It's like, what? Why don't you go? It's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's all about venting.
And I also want to say, if everything hangs on Iran, then you just better give up now, because they made their mistake by not getting a nuclear weapon, and now they're fucked. Unless for whatever reason somebody can convince Trump and those around him that this is a bad idea.
But it looks likely the attack is looks very likely.
So it's terrible. It sucks. I am 100% against the military intervention in Iran, and I'm 100% against the CIA and the Mossad mucking around in there. And we all could be against. We could take a poll. Won't change a thing. I mean, it's almost like we think that. And again, people who are more, who are more working with the mind than the hands, perhaps, you have this idea that, and Chomsky was also, I think, this was his blind spot, and this is where I agree with Zizek and the Zizek thesis Chomsky thing. It's the idea, this hope that if you just present people with the information, if you just present people with the facts and the information, you highlight the hypocrisy and you highlight what's really going on with the military-industrial complex, if you just can get people to realize that and not have their consent so manufactured, then people will demand different things, will vote differently, will mobilize, whatever. And what we've seen so far, and this is, in the interim, is that so far there's no shortage of information about the dirty tricks and machinations and crimes of the U.S.-led West or the UK-led West from before that. There's no shortage of that. But yet here we are. So knowledge and information and trying to beat people with with the campus stick isn't working. It's not enough. I don't know what the answer is, but this clearly is not enough. I mean, it feels good in the moment. God damn it, why are you saying this? You're giving credence to the imperialist narrative and all this stuff, and now I'm totally dark.
You're totally dark. So I remember, so I'll just to basically push back a bit, because I remember from the ZNet days. Oh, you're gone. I remember
from what's going on with I think my camera has, I think it's with my camera. Go ahead.
I'll continue.
So I'll just be an avatar.
So, because from the ZNet days, Chomsky's friends like Michael Elbert and others would constantly have this kind of back and forth with him, where they would be knowledge is not enough. There needs to be a blueprint. There needs to be a vision. There needs to be, and I think what I could take from that it was just different callings. So Chomsky's calling was to educate people, and then it was up to other people like Michael Elbert and others, and some of us, if we are into that, then to take that forward. But I think the next step has not been taken. So I do believe that education is very important, but then it is not enough, and it has to be supplemented with the vision for an alternate vision, economic, social. I think that's the part that's missing, and then based on this knowledge now. The knowledge itself is also highly bastardized in terms of conspiracy theories and so on and so forth. But whatever knowledge is there, I agree, it's not really leading to. So, for example, Chomsky spent decades telling us that the mainstream media is a sham. Now, I think everybody believes that the mainstream media is sham, but that hasn't really led to anything good. So
we're still watching, we're still consuming it.
Right.
And I think that a lot of information has become not about, it used to be, maybe this is nostalgia. I mean, obviously there were mass movements back in the day, so this was possible. And sorry, my camera seems to have flickered out, but people can still hear me. So I'm just going to, I'm just, it's deep state got me. The Marxist Leninists got me. So about informing to organize to some sort of politics, and now it seems like it's so much, and I'm also guilty of this. It's just consuming. We just consume it.
We consume.
I watch a cool podcast. I watch a cool documentary. I could read the 3-volume Cambridge history of communism, and I have this knowledge, and then I'm just and I'm looking around the world, I'm like, this is crazy. And then but I know, at least I know I know that it's crazy, or I know I can be, and also I can be aware, we can be aware of how our consent can be manufactured, but then do it anyway. I mean, it's like you can sometimes you can feel it almost in real time. If the optics are right and the presenter is right and they're speaking with confidence and it's not something that totally ruptures what you already think, before you know, like, well, yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Maybe Chomsky is a deep state plant. You know, maybe it all was fake.
Right.
You know?
Right. No, that's a good point. I think overconsumption also leads to the mind becoming scrambled and not thinking for yourself and just taking in whatever the podcasts are giving you. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. And I just want to do one final thing before we wrap up. Is there anything that you want to talk about in particular? Let me just put these things.
Yeah, maybe just one last thing. So this one, exactly.
This one? Okay.
Exactly. That's so funny that you also brought this up. So this is Mr. Chris Knight, and he has been going on and on for ages now, saying that Chomsky's linguistics, because he doesn't agree with Chomsky's linguistics, right? So he believes that there's nothing in the mind and it's all learned and it's all from, and Chomsky was, it's in our mind and so on and so forth. So he was also, by the way, on Owen Jones' channel. So Owen Jones, in throwing Chomsky under the bus, Owen Jones interviewed this idiot. I mean, he could have interviewed somebody better, but he chose Owen Jones interviewed Chris Knight. And Chris Knight and Owen Jones, and on Owen Jones' podcast, he kept saying, the caricature that he gave of Chomsky in linguistics, a term that Professor Chomsky didn't like, but Chomsky's linguistics was that Chomsky says that entire grammars and languages are hardwired into children's brains. And this is anybody who has read a little. So I'm a computer scientist by training. I've read a bit of Chomsky in linguistics, not too much. So I can give you an example, right? So what Chomsky was saying is that there are innate principles and rules which are part of our genetic endowment, and using that based on the data that the child receives, but limited data, but based on those inbuilt rules is how the child learns a language. So I'll give you an example. So imagine the sentence, rabbits are fast. Oh no, rabbits are nimble. I think it's that. Rabbits are nimble, right? So to turn this into an interrogative, it would be, are rabbits nimble, right? Rabbits are nimble, are rabbits nimble? So a child, a baby, an infant, a child who's learning to speak, he or she would hear the sentence and say, so the rule is that the second letter, if it's moved to the second word, if it's moved to the first place, then it's a question. Because rabbits are nimble, are rabbits nimble? So it's a question, but that's wrong, because what if the sentence was brown rabbits are nimble? Then the child will end up with the sentence, brown are rabbits nimble. Then the child could say, oh, maybe the first auxiliary verb, which is are, is, am, should be moved to the first thing. But that's also not correct, because imagine the sentence, the rabbit that was chasing the tortoise was losing the race. So in this case, the sentence would become, if he just moved the first, she moved the first was to the first, it would like, was the rabbit chasing the tortoise losing the race? So now, linguists have shown through experiments that children hardly ever or never almost hear these double auxiliary sentences. Yet in experiments, it was shown that they always form the correct question, which is they always come up with the correct question, which is, was the rabbit that was chasing the tortoise losing the race? Why? Because there's a structural property in our brains, according to theories, which is called structural dependence. Structural dependence. And it's inbuilt into the children's mind. So even if he or she does not get that data, even then they can form the correct question. So that's what, like, the very essence or the very basics, like, I'm not a linguist, so I mean, other linguists listening in can chime in with the comments. But that's the basic Chomskyan argument, and it's been proven by experiments. So Mr. Chris Knight just like makes a mockery of everything. He says because Chomsky knew that MIT is Pentagon based, he did not really want to work for the military, so he devised his idealistic language theories so they could never be used for anything because they were so abstract and ideal. And he's actually accusing Chomsky of inventing the whole field just to stay away from the Pentagon. And it's just these people know nothing about science. I mean, like, it's a joke.
Well, it's a good story.
Yeah. So, and I remember Owen Jones kept just nodding his head all along. Like, I was so embarrassed for Owen Jones. I mean, what an idiot. I mean, for inviting Chris Knight on.
Again, yeah, this another old canard that he was apologist for Pol Pot.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, he can't win for losing, so he's an apologist for Pol Pot, but he sinned by saying that the Bolsheviks were basically opportunistic thugs.
Right. Exactly.
That's his point, people. I'm reading now. Yeah. Oh, Gabriel Rockhill. Do you have a few more minutes for me?
Sure. Go ahead. Tell us the story.
Yeah. So Gabriel Rockhill. Okay. Yeah. So while compatible left intellectuals like Chomsky had close ties with intelligence immersed operatives like Epstein, those judged to be beyond the pale, like the great Parenti, humbly aligned themselves in the most. Okay. Here's another thing. People basically wanted to almost quite Stalinist, really. It's like, okay, we need to not just defame him, but we need to we should remove his books from the record and replace them with Parenti's. Not read Parenti as well, but just this thing. And Gabriel is a pick-me. Okay, this is what I know about Gabriel, and this is not, I don't know him personally.
Sure.
He went to Paris 8. I think Derrida, Jacques Derrida, was his one of his thesis supervisors. Yeah, and so for about 10 years, he was trying to break into that clique, that network. Yeah, and if you notice, which of course, but if you notice, like all the books and all the edited volumes from like from the aughts on, Gabriel didn't make the cut often. And what I heard from, and a few years ago, he did this hit piece on Zizek, also for Counterpunch. Mm-hmm. Now, same type of thing. There's all kinds of things you could take. No doubt, there's all kinds of things you could take issue with with Zizek on the philosophy, on the political text, on the culture, because he's the cultural theory, all that stuff. But what he went down is basically tried to impugn his character. Yeah. First of all, if you're popular, already you're guilty. That's one thing. Anyone who's popular is guilty. Yeah. And anyway, you can look at that piece. So he didn't go through, and because it's like again. So didn't and you'd expect a professor who's all into critical theory to actually provide a robust critique of whatever his object of critique is. But he goes it's all pick me, it's ad hom, it's impugn the character, it's all this stuff. Now, I was like, what I learned, what I was told, I don't know if it's true, is that a few times Zizek had passed on his work. Okay. So whether it's for an edited edition or an edited series, or I think also he had translated, I don't know if it was a Foucault translation or probably a Badiou, I don't know if it was Foucault or Badiou translation or somebody, and he also passed on that. So there's some sour grapes there. Mm-hmm. And so now he's no longer, he was in the belly of the beast of French theory, baby. He was Paris 8, all this stuff. But now he's turned the leaf, and now he is now out to show how all those people from the 1968 on, so Foucault and before that, the Frankfurt School, all those guys were CIA. The CIA sponsored them. The CIA was all for them, and that's how he's going. So he's a pick-me. He's a total pick-me. So now his thing is he wants to be part of the cool guys, revivalist, Stalinist revivalist, Marxist-Leninist revivalist thing, although he still has his professorship somewhere in New England, I think, or maybe I can't remember, it's somewhere in New England, maybe Chicago. Yeah. And he does his critical theory seminars, but he wants to have this kind of political cred. Yeah. And he also, Gabe, has produced 0 original work. Yeah. He can shit can others. He can write about Foucault. He can write about Derrida. He can write about whatever. But if you look at like what contribution has Gabriel Rockhill made to critical theory, I would say probably a goose egg. And not that that's bad, people who can do, people that can't teach. But I'm very suspicious of this guy. My feeling of him is he's a pick-me. Yeah. And he wants to use this. He wants to use this as a pretense to pimp his book.
Right.
Again,
That's true.
again, bombshell, what we already know. Hello, everyone. Prepare yourself. The CIA is anti-left. The CIA has an issue with communists and socialists. Prepare yourself. They're about demobilizing and demoralizing and also coupping sometimes. And they go in, they keep track on what's going on the universities. Prepare yourself. Yeah. And when they went to, apparently when they went, we're checking out what was going on after 1968, after the, when they were keeping tabs on the French intellectuals, they reported back like, nothing to see here.
Right.
There's a move away from Marxism. Yes. There's a move away from mass politics and mass parties. There's a move away from all that. They're all focused on, the more obtuse and culture and desire and power and all this stuff. So, there's nothing to worry about here in terms of our interests.
Right.
Again, what's the bombshell here? But he wants to pimp his book. He's uncovered it. Hey, everybody, the Frankfurt School and the New Left and Foucault and all these people. Yeah, the CIA didn't see any problem with their work. Okay, and he's just using this to get people to read his book. Right. Gabe is a pick-me. And also, I don't want to get you in trouble, Rameez. He also will stand up and say that trans women are women, just like any other woman. There's no difference between a trans woman and a regular woman. This is Gabe. And he will throw anybody under the bus who dares to say, I think it's a problem if we decide there's two types of women, male women and female women. That's Gabe.
Right. So I haven't, to be honest, I haven't read his book. I don't know if you have this latest book. But
no, and I'm not going to buy it. Right, but it's the same thing. He's been on this train, this pick-me train, for a few years now. So if you go to Philosophical Salon, you can hear how he outs. He goes through an open door and outs how we should that it's a bombshell that the CIA or CIA cutouts that they didn't have a problem with New Theory or the New Left, and they were like hippies, knock yourself out, probably until they started burning their draft cards, but didn't have an issue with that because of course it wasn't focused on class, and it had gone away from mass politics and mass parties and all this. So that's his revelation.
So
and also the idea that I mean, to me, that's his, but I can share that with you. Don't buy the book. It's basically just an elaboration of stuff he's already published elsewhere.
So coming to this podcast, I think this is the one or another one in which basically he says that Chomsky was dismissive of conspiracy theories, and there was, and that's the reason he didn't believe the JFK. Maybe this one. Or this is another one. Oh, this is Miss Brianna Joy Gray again, grinding her X, of course. So the question is Noam Chomsky one of the compatible leftists? And he actually says that he was, as in the previous tweet. Gabriel Rockhill is adamant that Chomsky was a compatible left, a person who couldn't, be published in the New York Times, who was mocked, vilified, faced vitriol all his life.
Well, so was Gabe until he couldn't have until he wasn't allowed in the club.
Right.
He wanted he was if the compatible left has any meaning, he was that until he decided to go this route.
Right. So it was just very weird to me to hear him say that Chomsky's big failing was that he didn't believe in conspiracy theories, whereas the video that you showed us already is more nuanced than that. Mm-hmm. And secondly, it was and he specifically, Gabriel mentions the JFK case and says that Chomsky just dismissed it, which is again factually not true, because Chomsky wrote a whole book on it called.
Also, he wasn't going to go on. It wasn't a main focus of his.
Exactly. Also, yes.
And it's not like not a lot of people, went on that. But also, here's Brianna Gray showing how knowledgeable she is. Chomsky self-describes as an anarcho-syndicalist, but that orientation also made him one of the most outspoken anti-communists. Brianna, Anarchists and Marxists are not the same thing.
Right.
Of course, an anarcho-syndicalist is going to have an issue with a freaking party state. Are you out of? She's an idiot in what? I mean, I'm sure she's very smart in some ways, but again, people don't know anything.
To be fair to her,
and I recently have looked into this again. I was pretty patchy. My actual knowledge about the interactions about all these groups and the differences, but it's like, yeah, an anarcho-syndicalist is not a communist. In the same way, like an anti-communist, what they mean by that are people who were critical of the Soviet Union, critical of Leninist party states, one-party authoritarian party states that used a lot of terror to get their people in line.
Right.
Yeah, so and to consolidate their power. And by terror, I mean using violence for political purposes. That's what I mean. And that's not even that's just fact. Yeah, right. You can say it was warranted or not, or understandable because of the time and the war and who knows what. But that's out. So it's like, yeah. So an anarchist is going to be critical of centralized power. Hello.
So what I'll say is that given the way what I'll say is, given the way she has been grinding her ex, I'm very angry at Miss Gray. But here, may I defend her? I think she's quoting Gabriel Rockhill. She's not inventing. She's not saying this herself. That's a quote there. But I think it's Gabriel Rockhill who's saying this.
Well, then he's an idiot, and he should know better because he's a Stalinist now.
Yeah.
Oh no, this makes sense then because they don't have to tell the truth. It's all propaganda.
Right.
Because in service of a greater cause. This is also something that I've learned. You know. It's that, and again, and anarchists, anarchists and socialists and communists are not the same thing.
Sure, I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I appreciate that because I was just thinking, like, well, yeah, if you need to say, and again, actually existing socialism is a cope. Yeah. It's like,
it is a cope.
There is a ton of leftists who think that you can actually attain socialism without a lot of repression. You know, you gotta school. You gotta tell the workers what's what. You gotta organize the economy. You gotta do all this stuff. You gotta squeeze the peasants. You gotta purge the party of all the, the 45,000 words they have for people we don't like.
Right.
It's like, again, his point is, and again, the socialism is become an empty signifier, but he says specifically in all his things, because I was trying to figure out like what was the axe to grind these people had with him. And again, if we take socialism to mean worker controller of production, the USSR, the Bolsheviks, all that stuff were anti-socialists. They said they were socialists. Like any politician, you want to say that was his thing. So people can disagree with that, whatever. But it's like, it's hard to go and look at the actual history of actually existing socialism and say, no, that's what worker control of production looks like.
Right. Exactly. And as I said, I mean, yeah, even
it's always later, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. Now Xi Jinping's saying like 2050. I mean, I don't know. And it's like, and again, it's just kind of like, it's statist. It's an authoritarian state managed economy.
Right.
Yeah. And they also manage capital or capital creation or movement or whatever. That's what it is. Sorry.
Speaking for example, or speaking to third world leftists, let's say leftists in Pakistan or India or whoever who kind of see China, right? And as a good example, I understand that in the sense that you can, but then you have to be very clear-eyed about it. You can say that, okay, it's basically non-white people doing very good for themselves, rather than calling it socialism, because it's not socialism. China is not a socialist country.
No, but it depends on how you define the term. Yeah, because now these people like Gabe and the revivalists, it's basically like anything that a communist party does by definition is communist and good. Anything that somebody, they say it's socialism, so it's socialism.
Right, exactly.
I know, like, hello, idealists.
Yes.
It's like,
so what I'm yes. So I would just like to underline one part very quickly, which I've already said, but I'll just repeat it. I do understand from the perspective of, let's say, Pakistanis or Indians or whoever, to look to China and say, see, this is, whatever, they have made a success out of themselves, and it is.
Well, and I mean, when I say the accomplishments are real.
Exactly.
It's not like there hasn't, like, if you look at what and how they want to be measured. And also, I think there's a lot with when the whole thing, when the actually existing socialism was coined, the metric wasn't about workers' control of production or the withering of the state. It was about modernization. It was about industrialization. Right. That was the measure. Yeah. And yeah, if you look at if you take that measure, you can be like, whoa, there's been modernization, industrialization like nobody's business. Yeah, there's also been the most tremendous primitive accumulation. Right. Yeah. So it's like, this is the thing. It's like, it's not to say that, if we try to use as accurate terms as possible, then it matters. So it's like, so I just want to make that sure that I don't want to make it like I'm, beating on China. China is, sure. China, but I would say, let's look at it. If you want to be a materialist, then be a materialist.
Yeah, be clear, right?
If you have a party state that's in charge of the entire economy, which means they're also in charge and rule workers, and all that stuff, then that's hard to say that is workers self-organizing control of production, because it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe that's impossible. Maybe that was a pipe dream. Maybe it's scale. It's too complicated. Yeah, fine. But why pretend that that left is right or that up is down?
Yeah.
It just seems crazy to me. But
I think it's the opposite of the dictum, claim no easy victories. I think this is a very easy victory to claim, to say that China is socialist. So,
well, yeah, I mean, because it's just yeah, I mean, it's really, I mean, it's all, I don't want to get too into that, but it's like, if you look at the metric, it's just and even now, you can go through the what they had to do to be able to industrialize and modernize as quickly as they did.
Sure.
A large human cost, not to mention the environmental costs. I'm not saying they should. I'm just trying to make a factual statement here, not a normative one.
Right, I get it. Yeah.
And also the idea that if you look at the social spending, the percentage of the GDP that China spends on social spending, it's less than the United States.
Oh, is it?
No, that's not the best measure, because there could be all but yeah, it is, because that's just one. It's not the best measure, but that's an act that is a fact.
Right.
Yeah. And that because they've been putting all their money as much as possible in investing the quote unquote productive capacity, into the infrastructure and industrial capacity, and squeezing, to use that term, household consumption. Yeah. If you look at the Gini coefficient, very high in China. If you look at the amount of disposable income from the lowest 10% to the top 10%, quite a divide. If you look at things like, that workers can't strike, like you can, there's unions, but the unions is all part of one government agency, and workers are not allowed to collectively organize outside that state structure, outside that ministry, whatever you call it. And so they can have, so all kinds of things,
Sure.
But it's the idea that they don't want to focus on that. They want to focus on how quickly they've modernized.
Sure.
And how their GDP has gone up. And that's fine, but that's not socialism. That is like Rostowian modernization theory. Who Rostow is, that's what that is.
Right. That's my point. So as non-white people, we can take China, we can be proud of China, let's say, but it's not socialist. That's the point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So one last thing, if I may. Oh, do you want to talk about Joe Emmersberger or no?
No, probably not. I don't think he deserves it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Oh, Kevork. I want to do Kevork because this is the Epstein hermeneutic, the Epstein skeleton key hermeneutic, the quilting point. So let me get his face up here. Where are you, Kevork? Oh, so many. Oh, no. Okay, so here's Kevork. He has an awesome beard. Like, the way he looks, I'd be inclined to believe whatever he tells me. So he's lucky on that. Yeah. And he is from Syria. I think he's originally from Syria, but he's been in Germany. I don't know how long, but he's based in Germany now. Anyway, Chomsky and Bannon. He's figured it out. He's cracked the code.
Wow.
He's cracked the Epstein code. Let me get to this. Oh, my stomach is growling. Okay.
3 hours.
So, actually, if you can see this, would you mind reading it?
Sure. So here's the part I addressed Chomsky, Epstein in my last Substack. The most poignant revelation for many was the detailed, years-long relationship between Epstein and Noam Chomsky. Here was the iconic intellectual of the anti-imperial left, the man who wrote Manufacturing Consent, exposed as a regular correspondent and beneficiary of a convicted child trafficker. The documents show more than just friendly message meetings. They show PR advice, right, from Chomsky to Epstein on how to weather the media storm after the 2018 expose. Ignore the hysteria. Develop a thick skin, drawing parallels to Me Too. They show a $270,000 transfer in 2018, a decade after Epstein's first conviction. They show Chomsky warmly engaging with Epstein's associate, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak.
Here it comes, the Epstein skeleton key.
Right. Suddenly, old puzzles click into place. Why did Chomsky, the critic of American imperialism, argue in 2017 that the US Army should stay in Syria to protect the Kurdish SDF, a project backed by the same neoconservative and Zionist lobby that sought to balkanize Syria? Why did he publicly reminisce about his honeymoon in an Israeli kibbutz in 1913? What?
Bastard!
What is this? 1 year after the Nakba, in the heart of Beirut. Why, during the pandemic, did he moralistically call for the social isolation of the unvaccinated, parroting the very fear-based narrative of the elite class? The answer is in the emails. Chomsky wasn't a mere dupe. He was, at a minimum, a compromised intellectual. His role was to shepherd leftists and anti-war sentiment into channels that were ultimately safe for the empire, blaming the US monolithically while deftly obscuring the specific orchestrating role of allied powers like Israel, or providing moral cover for elite-driven crises like the pandemic response. He was controlled opposition on the left, just as Steve Bannon, who also appears smiling alongside Chomsky, is controlled opposition on the right. Their public feud is theater. Their function is the same: to polarize, to radicalize constituencies into opposing camps that still operate within a narrative framework ultimately managed by the same power centers. Okay.
So I love it. So the hypocrisy here. So first of all, a lot of bullshit. So he was not a convicted child trafficker. He did not pay him $270,000. That was he was handling. He helped him handle the issue to get his money from his retirement fund that was in a trust after his wife died. All this stuff. So again, he's picking things and he's putting it into a particular self-serving narrative. Let's say. So my guess is that he started with Chomsky being controlled opposition. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I've got the Epstein quilting point. So I don't know if you're familiar as a computer programmer, you might not, but it's also Ernesto MacLeod talked about chains of equivalence.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Anyway, I want to let me see if I can find another one before I end it. There's also something about the communists. Let me see if I can find that. Oh, I thought I had this in an order that made sense, but apparently I did not. Oh yeah. So here's another one. Same thing with the Chomsky quilting, the Epstein quilting point. This is the communists, Marxist-Leninist sect party in UK. Noam Chomsky was appointed by the billionaire elite to be the ringleader of the Western academic left. Fact. On what basis? He was their man, a creature of the establishment. And the Trotskyites at Rev Communist, Socialist Worker and Socialist Party, revisionists and anarchists, the petty bourgeois left, labor imperialists loved him. They're in shock. their counter-revolutionary politics, essence and role stands fully revealed. Here he comes. They are the Epstein, Chomsky, anarcho-Trotskyite imperialist left. Ditch them.
Oh my God. Yes.
So an Aristotle cloud would be like, so you have a chain of equivalence. So you have these terms, yeah? And there's one term that dictates how all the rest of them work together and what meaning to attribute to them. And of course, Epstein is doing the heavy one here. So it's so Epstein is qualifying or tainting or shading Chomsky, anarcho, Trotskyite, imperialist left. So it's like, that's what I call chain of equivalence. Okay. And also, this sounds like a cult. It's like everyone's lying to you. Everyone's out to get you. Ditch them, join us. And also, it's just so mental. It's like, again, this whole thing, like, but for Chomsky, the Marxist-Leninists would be would be politically relevant.
Yes.
In the UK or in the US or even in China. Yeah. China has moved them to their past. Yeah. It's part of their heritage. It's part of the tradition. But they have a Leninist party structure, but they haven't been, hello. But I don't want to get too far off track there.
Sure. Yeah.
But to me, it's just like to both these things about the skeleton key and the magic quilting point. Let me get to my thing here, and then we will wrap up for sure. Oh yeah. So after I saw this, I want to, and I'm going to write this up and put it on my Substack at some point. So I said, behold the Epstein quilting point. Apply it once and presto. It retroactively rewrites the meaning of everything someone has ever said or done, even decades before they cross paths. The skeleton key hermeneutic. It's magic.
Yeah, this is exactly what's happened to Chomsky. Yeah, exactly. What they're doing to Chomsky. Exactly. Everything makes sense. Everything from his linguistic theories to his opposition to XYZ, everything.
Puts it up and puts it an Epstein bow on it.
Yeah. Now everything makes sense. Yeah. It just shows the utter lack of, what can I say? I mean, intelligence, lack of vision. There's nothing left to say. It's just crazy.
Yeah, so I think that we have done all we can do. I'm just gonna again, because I was thinking about this. This is February 11th. And I'm also struggling with what term to call this, but I was like, the cannibal tabloid left doesn't realize it. They're too busy feasting. But this show trial by media of Chomsky sends all those not enjoying this political snuff film one message about the actually existing left. Run!
True.
I mean,
that's a good point. That is. I mean, if this is what as I said to Shane as well, if this is what the global left is, you feel like you want nothing to do with it. I mean,
yeah, I feel like Claro from Pluribus. I mean, it's like, I have to tell you, I don't know if you watched that show or not, or if you know that reference.
I know the show, but I haven't watched it.
Okay. Well, and so there's 13 people who haven't been quote unquote infected. And I won't give it away in case you do watch it. Right. But the people she meets up with, the 13 that aren't infected, they just don't have. She's like really freaked out, and like we have to do something. And most of them are just like, or either they want to have it done themselves or whatever. So you're just thinking like, am I crazy? And so, but I'm not like Carol, because obviously, that's dramatic. But there are a few people who are not either haven't actually bought into this or aren't pretending like they have to go along to get along. And so I really appreciate Rameez, you coming on and doing this with me. And I really appreciate your video and the video that he did, his original response to this. I think I have it already, but maybe if I don't, I'll make sure I put it in the video description. And please do. I hope that we meet. I hope that we can chat again sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you. And also to Shane, but mainly you. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for. Yeah, I feel. I didn't mean to make you my therapist, but I'm like Rameez.
No, I understand the frustration. I mean. I don't know, but I was laughing and whatnot, but it's been a very frustrating few weeks, to be honest.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you just stay for 2 more minutes?
Right.
Can you?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so one of my Patreons is here.
Right.
Mark. Let's see if Mark has anything he wants to say to or ask Rameez.
So, do you think that this is going to change anytime soon? Because, like, Michael Tracy has been really good on this. Tara, you've been really good on this. Just the Epstein stuff. Do you think that there's any chance that people come around and realize there's just not much stuff here?
My feeling is it will run its natural course, as these things do. I don't think there's any stopping. The genie is out of the bottle. I think this entire thing will run its course. So I don't think anything anybody does at this moment will stem the flow. That's my feeling, obviously, and it will run its course, and then people will move on to the next thing. That's my feeling. I don't know what Tara feels about it.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I recently became an Epstein skeptic. I didn't want to because God knows, it's not. But when Chomsky became a collateral damage, I thought, I started looking into a bit more of this. Hey, Mark, can you mute yourself for a second? I hear like a plane. I don't know if there's a drone coming to get you or what. But look out, Mark. Look out. There's a drone coming to get you. Anyway. So yeah, I think that people are making a lot of hay of it. So in the States, for example, Ro Khanna and Massey are trying to make things difficult for Trump. And I don't know. I've seen with Mike Tracy, he's starting to get some traction. He got on Piers Morgan, and some of the center to right are having him on. He was on what's that guy's Coleman Hughes, I think is his name. And also he was on Spiked with which is a publication in the UK. And it was really hard for me because Spiked was so terrible on anything Gaza and Palestine related. I mean, just like, it's one of those things but what can you do? Anyway, so it's starting to get traction. People are starting to be like, hold on a second. This is getting, witch hunty. This is getting crazy. However, so I think eventually, it has to burn out because at a certain point, but what I'm curious to now is one thing is how much collateral damage is there going to be? And people tend to not care so much because it's rich people who are getting thrown under the bus. And so, like I said before, I'm not going to cry lots of tears for Prince Andrew, but I will cry tears for the people wanting to be so quick to throw due process and civil liberties out under the bus, as if this will only happen like this trial by media and rendering the accuser holy. So if someone accuses you of something, all of a sudden you can't say anything because, this type of thing. But I don't know how they're going to land this plane, Mark, because a lot of people have been promising the big reveal, the smoking gun. And they keep on saying it's a cover-up, it's a cover-up. And as long as there's still redactions in the files, they can think, well, the truth is behind the redactions. Who are they protecting? Who are they covering up? But what I wrote the other day was that the last Epstein file can't exist. For one thing, if it does, then the people who've been guaranteeing, either on the left, the right, the center, politicians or media, who have been saying that this is like the biggest scandal ever, and we're going to see how the deep state works and how the elite works, and also the people, the satanic pedophilia, ritualistic stuff, that when they don't get, when those pictures aren't coming together, there's always going to be, well, we haven't gotten all the files, or they destroyed the files. They destroyed the really damning evidence about Trump or about the Pope or about who knows who, so at that point, it's when you're not dealing with an epistemological thing, when you're not dealing with a knowledge thing, but you're dealing with a desire and a fantasy and a libidinal thing. I mean, no one is going to agree that we've gotten all the information until whatever story they've latched onto is corroborated. And as long as that's not corroborated, then we're not getting all the files, or they've been pushed away. But at a certain point, it will burn out. We'll see what kind. I think that the big scandal might be that there really isn't a scandal. That it could be that, okay, he's a rich dude and he hung out with other rich dudes and he was kind of a fixer. Yeah. So he would bring different parties together. Yeah. And he really had a thing for getting sexualized massages from young women, including, and that he liked to be in the company of young women, and that in exchange for that, they would get money and gifts and who knows what. Yeah. So there's that. And that could be, so again, the idea that the rich and powerful people hang out together and are able to have all most of their vices catered to 24/7. I don't see what the bombshell is there, but who knows? We'll see. Maybe he is the center of a honeypot compromat thing. Maybe he is totally mobbed up and Mossaded up and who knows what, but he also did financial work. He also did philanthropy. He also was a big donor at MIT who invited him and people to and encouraged professors and scientists who he wanted to associate with to attend these functions and all this stuff. But what do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think that people want to project whatever they want to believe onto this, and I was guilty of that too. Like, I have a lot of political issues with Chomsky. So when this came out, I was like, let's go. Yeah. When it came out with Alan Dershowitz and Larry Summers, but then I think you were the one who referenced Michael Tracy. And I thought, I'll look into this a bit. And I realized, yeah, there isn't really much, 90% of what people are saying really isn't backed up by anything. Mm-hmm. People will but I don't know if it's going to go away because it's so good for the algorithm. If you have any kind of
well, we'll have to see, because people now what's his name? What's that guy's name? I should know his name. The ruler of the world. Not Peter Thiel. Oh, Elon Musk. Yeah, people demanding prosecutions. Where are the prosecutions? And it's like, well, how many do you want? 5, 10, 15, 20? And I think it's too bad this could be an educational thing, because people are like, well, where are the prosecutions? And it's like, well, still in the States and in the UK and still a lot of places, if a prosecutor is going to charge someone with something, they like to have some sort of idea that it's not going to be thrown out by the judge, or that they're not going to get a conviction. Yeah. So people have this idea that a letter from an attorney about the case is somehow rock solid evidence that crime's committed. It's like, oh, so all this stuff. And so I don't know what they're going to do, because they're going to have to, because if people aren't going to be satisfied, the people aren't going to let this go until there are prosecutions, unless they get people, because I know with what's his name? Former Prince Andrew, they're getting him on sharing information that he shouldn't have shared with Epstein. That's the charge, that he was sharing information or talking about things. I think the same thing with Mendelsohn is that he shared information that he shouldn't have shared. So private, anyway, I don't want to say top secret, but just information he wasn't supposed to share. So government, private information he wasn't supposed to share. That's what they're going to get him on. So they could get people, if they could get people it's like getting, Al Capone for tax evasion or something. Yeah. So they could get that and hope that quells the populist demands for prosecutions. But we'll see. But I think it's that it's too bad that it really is a case study that, for whatever reason, because it was Me Too, because it was initially against a Trump administration official who gave him a quote unquote sweetheart deal, and just kind of got out of control. And then people thought it'd be politically useful, so the Democrats can use it to bash the Republicans with, and vice versa. And when it actually comes down to it, that there just isn't enough evidence to charge people with for the really salacious crimes, Yeah, I don't know. we'll see. But I think it's a huge distraction. I was also thinking that even though it's going to be hard to land the plane, and some people are going to have to, if they really aren't able to get any pelts, to burn any witches, if all they get is Ghislaine Maxwell and some of these guys on other charges that have nothing to do with the sex, the sex stuff and the pedo sex cults or whatever it is that's going on, the global trafficking ring. But I think also this is a great way to channel and extinguish populist passions, right? So you get this fervor, and then like this back and forth, the Republicans, Democrats, or whoever's going on. I'll just keep it in the States. And then they prosecute a couple of people, or they release all the files, and they're trying to be as transparent as possible. Look, we're being as transparent as possibly can be. We've learned our lessons. It's a point of reflection. And then it just keeps, and then nothing changes, because I mentioned this to Rameez before. I don't know if you were listening, or maybe he mentioned it to me. I can't remember anymore because we're one and the same now. Is that, let's say they get even let's say that the maximalist theory about Epstein turns out to be true. And let's say there's like a trial and like 20 rich perverts go to jail. Is your housing less expensive? Is the healthcare accessible? Is the economy producing decent and interesting work? I mean, is the Iran? Are we definitely not going to go to war with Iran? Is the Gaza genocide over? Are the people that perpetrate it being held to account?
Yeah, correct.
I think and again, these people are really good at turning lemons into lemonade. Lots of Olivia Popes out there, but probably not as attractive or well dressed. But
well, yeah, and with Michael Tracy, like he's made this point before, where even with what Epstein was convicted of, it's not the medical definition of pedophilia, and so he's in a position where he has to argue over the technicalities of the word pedophilia, and people will and people always respond to Michael Tracy by attacking his character and by saying, "Oh, you must be a pedo" or something like that.
Well, and this is another thing I want to ask you, Mark. I thought that this was just common knowledge until this scandal, that a pedophile is someone who's sexually attracted to prepubescent children. But now apparently it can be, it's if you mess around with a 17-year-old, you're a pedo, or an 18-year-old, or a 19-year-old. It's like, what?
Yeah, my understanding.
I mean, people are pretending, and I'm not saying it's good that he paid a 17-year-old to give him sexy time massages. I'm not saying that's a good thing. Not good. I'm not pro prostitution or sex work, whatever you want to call it. However, really people don't understand the difference between sexually abusing a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old and having inappropriate sexual contact with a 17-year-old. Really? I mean, I was 17. Apparently, my boyfriend was a pedophile. I had older boyfriends when I was 16 and 17, and they took me across state lines sometimes. They took me to concerts from Washington to Portland. I was also trafficked. I am a victim.
Guys, I need to leave.
Okay, sorry, Rameez. Good time to go,
no
because it's getting bad. Rameez, thank you very much. Everyone, check out Rameez. So take care, and I'm sorry. Oh my God, we did go 3 hours.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Goodbye.
You. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Rameez.
Bye.
Okay. Mark, I have like 5 minutes. So if there's anything you want to say, anything else?
I just wanted to say, I think that the 17-year-old in question, it was the eve of her 18th birthday.
That's what she said. Yeah. That was what she said in her statement to the police. Yeah. So, I mean, that's,
if it were 12 hours later.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing, is that people want to, it's like, it's just that, okay. And I don't know if people realize this or not, maybe now, is that the age of consent is not uniform in the United States. So most states it's 16, some are 17, and recently some have moved it to 18. So it's kind of like the more sexualized the culture, the more sexualized the culture becomes, the more sexualized, hypersexualized teenagers become and tweens become. People want to, they don't want to deal with that. They just want to change. They just want to up the age of consent. So I guess it's okay if 15-year-olds are having sex with 15-year-olds. That's no problem.
Yeah.
But, and of course, I'm not saying there's no difference, but it's just, yeah. So people want to, it's just pejorative, yeah, because it just adds to the thing. But nobody knew. I mean, you used to have this thing like, oh, a dirty old man, or like, you know, like if you would see somebody and you see someone and you think like if it's, you know, someone in their late 30s or older, out on a date or romantically having an interaction with, you know, 18, 19 or 20-year-old. Yeah, most people are going to be like, dude, you know, like, but whatever. You know, like you have Mick Jagger who's having a kid, like, you know, he's, you know, he could go out with someone's like 60 years younger than him, whatever. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's this idea that somehow really people don't know what pedophilia is. I call bullshit.
Yeah. And people pretend.
And we all know it is because it's like an inbuilt stigma. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's one of those things like, of course it has to be against the law because you're going to have some people who, you know, have this perversion. But it's like most people don't need to be told. Most people don't have any kind of sexual attraction to prepubescent kids. Thank God. But of course, there's some who do.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's just weird how like I was saying, like you're one of the few outlets who's really willing to be honest about this, because if people have this attitude of if there's smoke, there's fire. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, for sure. And it's like, and that's the thing. It's like I think, I mean, I'll just speak for myself and what I've observed is that we don't go around with our thinking cap turned on all the time. Yeah. Or our critical reasoning skills clicked on. Usually you have to, some people maybe that's their dominant mode, but most of us have to like flip a switch. Yeah. So you're just hearing this. And it's like, when I first hear, it's like, well, yeah, if you're like, okay, here's a rich guy. And okay, so he has connections. And so he got a lenient sentence in Florida. That doesn't, it's like, okay, fine. That makes sense. And someone wants to look into that. Yeah. Cause like that, because there's in the Me Too thing. Yeah. That's not cool. If rich guys can use their connections to get a lesser offense than most people would get. Okay, fine. And then you start hearing all this other stuff. And again, I was like, okay, you know, who knows? Yeah. I mean, again, because the best stories have, you know, smatterings of truth in them or factoids in them. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, there are intelligence agencies. There are people who commit sex crimes. There is a huge sex trade. Yeah. Rich guys do tend to fail up and help each other out. You know, if you have money, yeah, that and connections, chances are you're gonna have an easier time getting yourself out of trouble than the average person. Okay. You know, he set up meetings for people. You know, maybe, you know, yeah. Are there blackmail files? I'm sure there are. You know, I mean, so it's just like, but when you finally start thinking like this, when you take note and like, this is getting kind of crazy. And then there's people who are doing the thankless work of being messengers willing to get shot. And you start to actually look at what's been established and you're like, huh, this seems to be like the satanic panic, you know. And it just fits so many, you know, it just like and what I mentioned when I wrote, you know, the last Epstein Files is that any major or even minor to major story out there about how the world works or nefarious powers or whatever, the unfairness, all that, you can apply that to parts of the Epstein Files and then make your story, you know. But just because you can make a story that sounds plausible doesn't mean it's based in fact. So I don't know. I'm skeptical. I'm not saying it's a hoax. I'm just become quite skeptical. And the way that people are responding to Mike Tracy, and yeah, people have, he can rub people the wrong way, and he kind of, I don't know why he doesn't have get a media shirt, like a shirt for when he goes on his things, kind of spruce himself up a bit, but whatever, kind of maybe goes for the whole, reporter on the street guy. But it's like, all he's doing, I mean, yeah, he gets defensive, of course, who wouldn't, is saying like, I looked into this, here's what I found. And people they don't want to hear it. It's like, don't put the turd in the punch bowl. Don't ruin our fun. And of course, all this stuff, like, why do you care? They're just rich guys, or, whatever it is. And he keeps on saying like, look, and people don't want to hear it. But look, this isn't about my love for Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of of when people talk about Woody Allen. It's like who was also friends with Epstein, and people will often say like, "Oh, Woody Allen married his stepdaughter." You can do a 10-second Google search and find out that isn't true. And then every time I bring that up to people, they're like, "Why are you defending Woody Allen?
Yeah,
why are you defending that?" It's like, it's just the truth. He just didn't do what you said.
Yeah, it's like, but basically, it's like, why are you ruining my fun? Like, what is it? And it's like, okay, yeah, but yeah, I think that is the case. Like that his wife was Mia Farrow's adopted daughter, and Woody Allen and Mia Farrow were married, but he never officially adopted her. And then I don't know when their relationship turned romantic, but they've been together like 20 years now, or something.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can have all kinds of feelings about that.
Yeah.
But he's never been charged with any crimes.
Yeah.
And she certainly hasn't charged him with any crime.
Yeah.
And I guess his other daughter though also claimed that he was inappropriate to her, but that never went anywhere. So,
yeah. Like,
people forget that people can say anything. They can say absolutely anything.
Yeah. If you don't like something, you can make up all kinds of things.
I think we have to be, again, being aware of how susceptible we are to our consent being manufactured. Is that if you start hearing things a couple of times and you hear them from sources that you consider authoritative or you like, yeah. So, like, for example, I find that Jimmy's gone a bit too tabloid, but I like Jimmy Dore. Yeah. I like Do Dissidents. I don't have a problem. I mean, I find Chris Hedges sanctimonious, but I'd watch his stuff. And so if you start hearing these things from people who you're inclined to give the benefit of the doubt to listen to, of course, you're just going to assume that there's something there. Like, what exactly is there? How bad is that? I don't know, but there's something there. And then again, you have to turn on that switch. Like, well, how do I know that? Like, I want to believe that it seems possible, but how do I know that? And now that it's become this huge thing, I'll take a couple of hours and I'll look into it. And then you're like, oh, geez, there really isn't much. It's hearsay, it's speculation, it's allegation, but not a lot of credible evidence, which means evidence that's been tested. Evidence that a prosecutor would look at and be like, okay, yeah, this is strong enough for me to want to bring charges. Yeah. And then, first of all, again, this is my understanding, is that you have people who are like, whoever's investigating this, they have to be like, okay, is there enough? Is there evidence here? Is there that warrants bringing charges against somebody? Yeah. And then they can file the charges. Maybe they go to whatever it is, like a grand jury or however the different thing is. And first, that's the first thing, is the prosecutors have to decide, or the investigators have to decide if there's enough there that raises to the level of crime and they want to prosecute. And then if it goes to trial, it has to make it through that. And then you don't just have the prosecutors, you have the defense, who can bring their own expert witnesses, who can impugn the character, can be like, okay, I think this person may have an axe to grind. Isn't there another way to look at this? What's the there? Is it just hearsay? And that has not happened at all in this with Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell was put on trial, for trafficking, apparently only to Jeffrey Epstein because nobody else came out of that. But I haven't looked at the transcripts myself. I know that Tracy has looked at that and he found it to be a bit of that she was railroaded, that he's suspicious that they really had to get somebody. They had to hang this on somebody. Mm-hmm. And so they put like in the full force into getting on that. And yeah, and I don't know. I mean, if she, you know, again, I don't know. She could have been very well involved in procuring young women to provide services to Jeffrey Epstein. And if some of those, and if she broke the law, she broke the law. You know, fine. But the idea that you go from that to this huge global sex trafficking, not just sex trafficking, but pedophilia.
Yeah.
And now cannibalism and espionage and like it's just like everything, like Jeffrey Epstein was everywhere. I mean, he was a busy dude.
Yeah, with a lot of friends.
Or whoever was behind him. That's the thing. Who's behind Jeffrey Epstein? And who's behind the people who are behind Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah.
Because once we know that, we'll know how the world works, and then what? Everything will change. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but thanks for being honest about this, because the people who are actually like, it's mainstream media and it's alternative media that is just running with what you just call the maximalist stories, like convicted pedophile, global sex
island, rape island, yeah,
and like Michael Tracy pointed out, like nothing even happened on that island. It's like, and he did not call his plane the Lolita Express. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking insane?
Well, no. And it's just, but it's a desire machine, yeah? Because once you create this story, these various stories, and then they show these pictures, and every redaction is just a titillation. Mm-hmm. You know? Why are they redacting that? And how old is this, you know? And people decide they know. They can tell by looking at a young woman in a bikini if she's 17 or 20. I mean, I can't do that.
I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even try to do that.
I wouldn't try to do that. But I'm just like, you know, and people are like, oh, you don't care. You're apologizing. I go, I'm not apologizing for anything. Like, look, I just know how I was when I was 16 or 17. My parents were clueless. Yeah. In Washington State, you could get a driver's license when you're 16. As soon as I was 16, I got a driver's license. And about a month later, I was working 4 nights a week at a restaurant in Longview, Washington. I won't name the main restaurant, but that's where I was working at. And, you know, I was thinner. I was pretty fine, you know, and I was old for my age, you know, whatever. And it was like, all I had to do is tell my parents, oh, I have to work late. Or I got put on party duty. Like there's a wedding reception and it's probably not going to get over to midnight. This was like Friday or Saturday. So I'm just going to stay with whatever my friend's house was like. Yeah. Or I'm going to stay at my cousin's house who lives in Longview. Okay. Yeah. See you tomorrow. Dude, I did whatever I wanted. And I'm lucky I didn't get into trouble, more trouble than I did. Now I have regrets, but luckily nothing criminal happened to me. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, please. And if there was someone I liked at a party who just assumed I was 18, well, I was 18. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like, I went to all the after work parties with and most of the people that worked at those places were older than I was. Yeah. But I would, they like me. Oh, hey, we were going to go to a party over. Do you have to go home? You should come. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to the after hours parties of all these 20 and 30-year-olds. I mean, seriously. But whatever. I guess they're all pedos. Anybody that ever kissed me or danced with me sexually was a pedo. Fine. In a frisky manner. But also I'm thinking it's crazy. I have girls who are 12 and 13, and I constantly have to be looking at what they're wearing when they go outside. I'm like, what's this? Oh, I'm like, no, you're not. No.
Okay. Well, now you're being reactionary. Now you're being
not being reactionary. No, but it's also the fact it's like, but the thing is that it's like if you want to keep, and again now I'm being moralizing. It's like if the people who are pretending like they're all concerned about the safety of young women, of girls. It's like, you gotta make a point of keeping tabs on what your kids are doing and what their friends are doing. Yeah. So I would know, I mean, at this point, unless I like totally something changed in my life, you know, I would know if my kid was getting paid $200 and $300 to give a dude a massage, because they'd spend that money like they'd just spend it. And I'd be like, where did you get that from? Oh, I'm like, how did you? I'm like either I'm like, what's going on here? Are you like a drug mule? I mean, what's happening? You know? So it's like, and not that it makes it right, but it's like, you know, if you keep tabs on what's going on with your daughters or your sisters, then a lot of this stuff, you can prevent them from ending up, you know, wanting to go to a rich guy's house and give $300 massages. You know, because of course that's also groomy. That's totally groomy. You know, you can read the transcript. So the first massage is just a massage. And the second one, you know, he might ask like, what, if you want, if you don't have to, but if you want to remove your, you know, if you want to just wear your bra, that's okay, but you don't have to. And then it progresses. Of course it was grooming, but not pedophilia, unless the girls involved were prepubescent. Or I'd even say, okay, prepubescent or just like, you know, in the process, you know, because there's prepubescent kids, there's pubescent kids, so you're going through puberty. And then it's kind of like when that part's done. Like for me, for example, not to use myself again, but by the time my puberty started at the beginning of 11, and by the end of 11, I was done. I was like 5'10". I had like 36C bra. I mean, it was crazy. I was the most developed person in my class. I was taller by probably 2 inches than all the boys. It was crazy. But I was done. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't say that'd be okay then for me to go gallivanting with men when I was 12. No. So I've even just to be the benefit of the doubt, pubescent, prepubescent people, but post-pubescent teenagers are not children. They're minors. Yeah. So minors don't have the same rights and expectations that adults have under the law. That's why we have the word minor.
Yeah. And they're minors because we decided that this age 18 is the age of majority. We could have just as well decided 17. We could have just as well decided 19. Like it's.
Yeah. You have to decide as a society, you have to decide, but there's a gray area. So for example, Washington State, I could drive at 16. I could work at 16. Age of consent was 16, but I couldn't drink a beer. I couldn't buy alcohol until 21.
Mm-hmm. And in some countries,
I can drive anywhere I want. I can work. I can have sex, but I can't buy a beer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay. And not that I think that I mean, whatever, but it's just, yeah, it's just the panic. It's the moralizing. It's the panic. They don't want to admit, they don't want the fun to stop, or they don't want to admit that they got carried away with something. So it's easier just to shoot the messenger, you know, and impugn their character. Only somebody who's also nefarious and a pedo would dare look into the details.
And that's exactly why they're throwing Chomsky.
Dare read the case files. What kind of monster would do that?
Well, that's precisely why they're throwing Chomsky under the bus, I think, because they realize, like, wait, if we defend Chomsky, then we can't go after Dershowitz. We can't go after Larry Summers. We can't go after.
They can, but it'd be more difficult. But I mean, hypocrisy and consistency are in short supply.
Yeah.
You know, be more difficult, but you know, it's just like I've been poking the Marxist-Leninist revivalists, I call them now, as I learn more about their movement. Is that, you know, by the Chomsky standard or by the Epstein standard, Joseph Stalin was a pedo. He married a 17-year-old, which means he was courting her before that, and he knew her since she was a little girl. Groomer, you know. But oh no.
No, and a lot of this was more socially, like, you would know more about this than I would, but a lot of this used to be a lot more socially acceptable. Like relationships between older people and, say, like teenagers. Like in Clueless, like in the end, Paul Rudd.
How about American what was it? American Dream?
American Graffiti?
No. With Kevin Spacey.
American Oh yeah, American
Beauty, American Beauty.
Beauty, yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
I think she was like. I mean, the actress was a bit older, but it was his teenage daughter's friend.
Yeah.
Who he's lusting over.
Yeah, and of all people, it's Kevin Spacey who actually did.
Or like, you know, Elvis and Priscilla Marie, or I mean, it changes, yeah. So these types of things, these things about sexuality, and norms change over time, yeah. So I mean, I need to wrap it up, but of course we can go back to ancient Greece where it was normal for youths. They called them youths then. So I think it was probably like pubescent boys would be my guess. I think that would be a youth. So like pubescent or just pubescent, but it'd be totally, at least from what we've read, was normal for them to hang out with men.
Yeah.
Because that was the male form. I think that the youth male form was also highly, you know, they have it in their sculpture and on their all that stuff. Now, I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that things change, yeah, and societies have to decide what the age of consent is, for obvious reasons, yeah. And you have to decide what that is, and then when you're going to enforce it, I would guess in most cases that, like, even if Florida, if the age of consent is 18, if a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old are having sex, they're really going to prosecute that. The parents might want to if they don't like the boyfriend, or vice versa, but usually it's the other way around. But you know, I don't know. But yeah, you have to, you know, it makes sense. You have to have those. You have to that they decide that, okay, we have to figure out we have to have an age of consent. Okay, some people think you don't. I mean, that's a different. I would advocate that. But to me, it's like, and this is just part of. I'm sure it's part of being a Gen Xer and growing up how I did, or you know, in my past experience, is that 16 seems to be a reasonable age of consent, and I mean reasonable, not like I'm going to go and advocate for states that are 17 to be 16 or 18 to be 16, but it just seems reasonable and workable. Because, and the only reason why I base that on is if I would say that if I say out loud 15, I feel a bit like that's too young, and 16 is like borderline, yeah. But that, you know, I mean, they're still on the books in China. I don't know if they just haven't gone around to changing it. And this is like from, you know, when they're mostly a peasant society. The last time I checked, and I was looking into this, the age of consent in China is 14. You know, and so it's just that it's, you know, yeah. And that sounds young to me. Anything younger than 16 makes me raise an eyebrow. Like, But then again, saying the age of consent is 16 doesn't mean you're saying 16-year-olds should be having sex. You know? Not every 16-year-old is the same. I would, you know, if I had my way, I would hope that my kids don't have sex until they're all 18 or older, you know. But there's a limited, I can keep tabs on them, but there's no. So my son was 16, a bit young. So, but whatever. And I don't know why he had to tell me. That's also weird. But anyway, that's not details, but you know. Yeah. So, Mark, anything else? What's going on? How are things in Brazil before we sign off?
It's really hot because it's summer here. But even here, people are talking about the Epstein Files. People are asking me, like, what do you think about the Epstein Files? It's like, I don't even know what this is.
It's an international blockbuster.
Yeah, it's like, oh, and also, I hate to tell you, I think I've mentioned this before. So I've dipped my toe into some of the Marxist-Leninist groups here. They're all fucking woke. Like, it just, they're all like you're a Marxist-Leninist group in Rio de Janeiro. They had this huge trans flag. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You know?
Well, who knows? Maybe, you know, I mean, the more I look into that, the more I find it, the revivalism bit interesting. I understand it. You know, a small group, you know, against all odds, captures state power. I mean, you know, it's both in the USSR and in Russia, and then also in China, and then in a couple other places. So, you know, I get the I get the lure. The historical record is a bit different. Anywho, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
I noticed, and I thought that YouTube would send me an email if I got because I signed up for memberships, and I just assumed I hadn't had any. And then I was looking at the details the other day, and I saw that I had two or three members. So welcome, thank you. I thought YouTube would tell me. So I'm trying to get that. So thank you. I appreciate all my my supporters, both paid and non-paid. Yeah, there's a lot vying for your attention, and I appreciate people tuning in while I figure out this podcast genre. But anyway, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it, and
thank you.
I will see you. I will keep hope alive. Keep hope alive, young man.
I'm trying.
See you next time.
See you.
All right. Oh, I'm big again. My camera apparently is trying to stop working. Oh, well, we're on a shoestring budget here. So I'm going to have to, we moved recently and I have a backup camera someplace. I'm going to have to dig it out. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Thanks again for Rameez Rahman joining me for this tabloid-left show trial, a cross-examination of the tabloid-left show trial of Chomsky. Please do consider liking and subscribing. I'm on, what am I on? YouTube, Rumble, X, Substack. I appreciate this. I'd like any support is welcome. And on that note, I will bid you adieu. Take care and see you next time.